Hello there. Are you Dutch? There you go. How we doing, alright? Duperpins, Terry, Imran, Malky, John, Malky, how's it going? Arwen's going to Flat Earth Conference, it's going to be exciting. Good on Arwen. Good luck to him. I'm going to make this again, go through this whole process. What I'm seeing now is so many people running away with this and misrepresenting me in particular. I just had a little listen to Jimmy Too Fast or whatever you're called, Jimmy, telling lies. Again, you know, I'm going to talk about how I arrived at the motion of the earth, and again, these people seem to forget while they sit there misrepresenting people like me and saying things like, I mean, why is Dale talking about inertia and constants? I mean, are people just no thinking? Hang on a wee minute, none of you lot were thinking. I brought this to the table. No you lot, none of you people, none of you were smart enough to figure it out. Right? Then you've got the cheek to sit there and misrepresent me when you don't even have the faculty to comprehend it yourself or figure it out yourself. So again, I do not have all the answers. I arrived at the conclusion that Earth's in motion. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to make it very clear. I have no solid, definite proposition to make in regards to the Earth's true motion, how fast it's gone, what particular path it's taken, whether it's a linear straight line motion or it's on some curved path tethered to some central point, or whether it's in some sort of coil mechanism. All I know is that there's a motion to the Earth. Relative to us, that motion is upwards. So people hear upwards and they automatically start imagining straight lines going to infinity. Right? To make it very, very clear, nothing of any sort of definite has ever been stated in this channel. Right? It's clear to me that whatever's going on, it's a constant, because you have a constant weight. Okay? Now, that could mean a number of various things that have to be investigated. Now, people are going to sit there and misrepresent me, saying that I'm claiming that the motion of the Earth's at a constant rate and inertia and yada yada. I have questions. Inertia is a very real thing. Matter resists motion. Even in a vacuum, matter resists motion. So there's things to be considered and things to be worked out. However, this is where it starts to go wrong, because people are running away on aspects of this whole situation. And clearly, people are forgetting that the main claims were downwards acceleration. The reason I arrived at this was due to those claims that people were making in regards to downwards acceleration. Me, went out and tested to see if these claims were actually true, and lo and behold found they were not true, and established and found that the motion vector was upwards. Again, clarity. Upwards means relative to us within the reference frame, that being that the push is from our feet, or your arse if you're sitting, whatever you like. Right? That does not then denote that I am claiming anything definite about the motion of the Earth, how fast it's gone, what's causing the loss of momentum when we drop objects, or any of that stuff. None of that's been stated here as a fact, ever. Okay? What is a fact is that there is no physical downwards acceleration, and that the vector is demonstrably upwards. That's the facts. That's where I am at with clarity, with solid grounds to stand upon. The rest of it can be discussed. However, I now have no respect for people like Jimmy Too Fast, who has one conversation with me, doesn't he listen, then goes on to morons channels who do nothing but bitch about people, offer nothing up, have actively, hand-waved, dismissed this whole proposition, and then wants to sit there with these people misrepresenting me, saying I'm making claims about this, that and the other. What a fucking embarrassment. Now you have absolutely zero respect from me. While you sit there with your ego running away with itself, thinking that you're smarter. You're no smarter. You weren't smart enough to figure it out in the first place. And then, because you're jumping on the bandwagon, you then don't pay attention to what people are actually saying to you. Again, go and cite where I've made any definites about this motion of the earth, its speed, what causes loss of momentum, its track, what path it's taking, whether it's circular, constantly changing direction. Go and find it. What I've clearly stated is that there's a constant going on, because your weight's constant. Now, as people like Jimmy want to rattle on about, right, constant acceleration. Now, let's be clear. You can have constant acceleration, that being a constant increase in velocity. Right, so if your car's now accelerating at 10 miles per hour and you accelerate all the way up to 100 miles per hour, that's a constant acceleration, okay? Then you can have a constant increase in acceleration where after 10 miles per hour, where it took 10 seconds to get to 10 miles per hour, to get to 20 miles per hour it only takes 8 seconds, to get to 30 miles per hour it only took 6 seconds, and yada yada. So then you've got a constant increase in acceleration. Okay? So there's different variations going on, and again, clearly people are not engaging with each other to establish the words that we're actually using and what they're defined as and what they're ascribed to. Right? So right off the bat, now I'm seeing an endless amount of people running about misrepresenting my position while trying to grab this that they never figured out in the first place and run about with it. Seriously disingenuous. Bordering on utter retardation. So now I've got my little rant and annoyance out the way. We can start to comprehend how I, the person that brought it to the table, actually arrived at that. Because this is the parts that everybody is running away from. Nobody has ownership over objective truth, but see, when people sit there and talk about you and misrepresent your position, it really riles me. Because I like to walk with integrity. Right? And people that just misrepresent you and tell barefaced lies about you takes away from that integrity, which I have a real issue with. Because I'm passionate about the truth, always have been, always will be, and I'm the one that's walked that path. Don't forget that. You can call that ego all you like, it's just the fucking truth. You don't want to listen to that, Chiqueta. I'll give you a hint. He's talking on a channel with people who have done nothing but attack persons. Handwave, dismiss the motion of the earth, ridiculed it, laughed at it, you know who I'm talking about. So you know, again, when we get back to the motion thing, there's questions that have to be asked of some of these people, right? When they're talking about motions of the earth and constants and, oh, it needs to be accelerating. For one, many people utilise a linear acceleration, that being a path that goes perpendicular to the already established motion vector. Right? Then they start trying to make statements about what should and shouldn't happen in regards to the motion of the earth based on their experimentation or their tests of being within a vector and then going perpendicular to that vector and observing the effects of what happens then. They're taking those examples and superimposing it onto, you know, the motion of the earth, which again, it shows you how little they actually comprehend. What you're doing there is establishing what happens physically to matter with two different vectors. One being the vector that's the frame, the reference frame, and then motions within that reference frame, perpendicular to that motion vector. Then you're getting results that you're witnessing. That's got nothing to do with the reference frame. Another question, do you think inertia is not a real thing? do you think that in a vacuum where you have reduced air resistance as much as you can, that you can accelerate matter, a lead weight, and it won't resist that motion? If so, please get in touch and show me your demonstrations. Until then, shut your fucking mouth. You don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. And stop using perpendicular motions against the established vector to try and make your point. Because again, you're showing me how clown you are. How little you actually comprehend about anything. Aye, the constantly straw man Nick was another one. I've got a lot of time for Nick, but you know, Nick is another one that utilises linear motions or accelerations and what happens to displacement, right? Well, there's still a vector that way interfering with that, and then wants to make statements about what's happening there and how that transposes to the motion of the actual reference frame. It's preposterous. So anyhow, all that stuff can be kept to a later date. I'm still not seeing the concession from these people that there is no physical downwards acceleration. Somebody like Nick makes a statement that, I'm not saying anything definite. Well, at the same time, in comment sections, is saying things like, things appear to be all accelerating down at the same time. So anyhow, you know, I keep thinking about this all the time, and again, it's like trying to get clarity with people in regards to how does somebody like me come to the conclusion that the Earth's in motion, you know, and people having to take responsibility for their own worldview and the claims that they make. Again, I wasn't the one making the claims that the Earth was stationary or the Earth's a globe, you know, both with downwards acceleration, yada yada yada. I just listen to the claims and then I go and I see if they're true. Okay, so let's comprehend, right, how this started. This started first and foremost with the understanding that there's no such thing as a pulling force in nature, right? Pull is a relative descriptor to two objects, you the observer, bringing something closer to you or further away. So the act of bringing closer or taking further away can be denoted as push and pull, okay? But how to achieve the actual motion of matter is that applied pressure has to be there. Something has to press on something else in order to make it move in a particular direction. Whatever direction one thing's moving in is going to be the vector that's established to make something go in that particular direction. Okay? So that's where you start. That's how it starts. Once you comprehend that, then you can start addressing language things like when people say, oh, the Earth pulls stuff towards it. Then you say, okay, what do you mean by pull? Well, it attracts. Okay, what do you mean by attract? Right? So people skirt round these things. In order to have, you know, one object and have another object go to that other object, there has to be some external factor that's pressing the object towards it, or this object somehow makes this object go towards it. So you ask questions, okay, can you depict it for me? Could you even draw how a pull would work? Because in the real world, when you pull something towards you, like, you know, if I've got an object, I have to hook something over the top of it and use leverage here to press against this and bring it towards me. Right? So how does mass make other mass go towards it? Right? The only way that's going to happen is if there's a medium between them and somehow the pressure in this medium is altered, so you can create a lower pressure here and the higher pressure of the medium will push in, taking the object towards the other object. Kind of like your Hoover, the vacuum in your house works. You create a lower pressure system and the higher pressure surrounding it pushes inwards and collects the particles on its way in and pushes them into the collection chamber. Okay? So pull's not a real thing. It's a colloquial word to describe the action of bringing something closer to you. That's what it means. The mechanics of motion are simpler. There only is one aspect, that being something presses on something else and makes it move in a particular direction. Okay? So right there and then, we've got a problem. You've got a globe Earth claiming it's got a globe Earth of mass, and somehow this mass makes matter come towards it. So they devise and come up with notions and theories just like I'm explaining to you. You need some surrounding medium then that's affecting them in order for that to happen. Okay? Which is where they come up with the warping and bending of space-time. So when you start addressing that, then you're asking questions of, okay, what does actual downwards acceleration look like? So let me just screen share that with you, right?
So when we're talking about downwards acceleration, which bottle will you bet is the one accelerating? 1 or 2?
So in a situation like this, the one on the right is actually being accelerated downwards. The one on the left is claimed to be accelerating downwards, but there's a problem. Because in actual acceleration, we get a displacement of matter, right? In this scenario, we have a case of special pleading for a special type of acceleration where a force can accelerate gas, liquids and solids simultaneously. So in turn would have to be from one force applying various force, that being more force on the solid, but less force on the liquid and even less force on the gas, in order to accelerate them all in lockstep without the displacement that we witness in the conditions of actual, real, physical acceleration. So we have a problem here. We have to ask the question then, what is actually going on? Why is this so fucking slow? For fuck's sake. So, we ask the questions, what's actually going on here? Because what we can do is we can recreate conditions of acceleration and what actually happens to matter. Right? So when we actually accelerate matter, real world stuff, what we get is the creation of a gradient. So in the scenario of a simple accelerometer, like such, as we accelerate it, right, in any direction, what we get is a pressure gradient, we get a density gradient. So if I'm accelerating in that way, we get a level surface of water here, and then we get air here. So anytime we accelerate in any direction, we witness that the air is always the furthest from the point of acceleration, and the more dense material is the closest to the point of acceleration, 100% of the time. 100% real world fact that every single person can demonstrate for themselves. That includes when you actually accelerate down. When you accelerate down, the liquid is here and the air is here. Okay? Now, we go to globe Earth claim. Yes, it's all accelerating down at the same rate. Can we qualify that sort of reasoning? Can we utilise any other example to recreate that sort of acceleration? No, we can't. It's impossible. It's not real. But we have to allow special pleading, special circumstances, just because the globe needs it to fit their model. That's not how it works. So now the globe Earth wants you to believe that there's a force acting to accelerate down. Right? Well, the liquid's here and the air's here. Contrary and totally opposite to actual physics and what we actually witness. Right? Not only that, now when it comes into contact with the Earth, right, as the water's still here and the air's here, now we've got air bubbles rising through the water, going against the force that's acting that way. So now we've got a force that's applying various amounts of force on the solid, the gas and the liquid, right, to act on it in a particular direction, but yet when it meets the surface of the Earth, now all of a sudden air wants to travel against that force vector, when in every single scenario, when the force vector's applied, the air goes the direction of such. So we've got so many contradictory, arse backwards, special pleading, flying in the face of demonstrable physics claims. So when I witness actual acceleration and I witness an air bubble rising through a medium, I then can solidly conclude that the force is acting in that direction because I can recreate it in any other direction. Not only that, what I can then do is I observe an air bubble rising through the medium. Now I can again change the variables and play with all sorts. Now I can add to the vector by accelerating it upwards. And what do I witness? I witness that the rate of the air bubble rising increases because I'm adding to that motion vector. So the globe Earth wants you to believe in contradictory statements, statements that defy physics, just because. Then we come on to stationary flat Earth. And stationary flat Earth is asking the very same thing, with all sorts of other various nonsensical gibberish requests and statements being made. First and foremost, in the scenario of a drop, again, what happened there? Stationary earthers. Oh well, it's no longer supported by the air and stuff, so it wants to go down. We'll get to this wants to go down part in a wee second. Oh, hang on a now. So you're claiming there's a downwards acceleration? Yes, stationary flat earther is claiming downwards acceleration. Hang on. So we're back to square one again. Alright, but this is what physical downwards acceleration looks like. You need to just be patient. We're getting serious lag here for some reason. For fuck's sake. So we're back to square one, with a stationary Earth now making the very same claim. Okay, we can clearly all witness what actually happens with physical downwards acceleration. Okay. So, stationary flat earthers are now making the same claim. So the same questions are put to those people. What do we get back as a response? None. doubling down on their special pleading nonsensical claims. Again, stationary Earth now with electrostatics, okay? So we've got an accelerative force acting on matter which can apply force to the solid, force to the liquid, force to the gas. So this one force now is applying various force, because you can't have the same force accelerating gas, liquids and solids with the same amount of force. They all behave differently, but this one force has to be accelerating all the states of matter with applied various amounts of force in order to accelerate it all in lockstep. Again, same problems as a globe. Okay, you've got it all accelerating in lockstep. When it gets to the surface of the Earth, all of a sudden air bubbles are rising. So now your downwards acting force is showing air going against the force acting. Yet again, in every single example of the accelerometer, when we accelerate it, the air moves the direction of the acceleration. So now we've got a downwards acceleration with air rising against it. This is the sorts of claims that fly in the face of all physics. Nobody can demonstrate acceleration of the vessel with the air going in the opposite direction. But we have to accept it. We have to put up with name calling. We have to put up with hand wave dismissal. People with incredulous fucking natures making all sorts of outlandish claims, flying in the face of physics, while they sit there with smugness and assertiveness and assuredness that their back-ass fucking downright retarded worldview is correct. So then we progress on to other examples, right? Like RDD. Why does an air bubble rise and a lead weight appear to sink in a particular medium? That's RDD. That's relative density disequilibrium. That's about a relationship between the medium that the matter is within and the medium that it's in. So somehow by air being in a medium and solid matter being in a medium, somehow this creates what we call the density gradient, where air rises and things fall. Right? Now their claim is that it's a relationship between the matter within the medium. So the medium and the matter within the medium, and somehow there's some relationship there where the medium or the matter knows what direction it's to go in. Nonsensical gibberish. So what do I do? I then say, alright, is that the case? Then if that's the case, what I should witness in freefall is that regardless of whether this is in freefall, if I'm watching an air bubble rising through the water and I let the water go into freefall, the air bubble should continue to rise, because your claim is that it's a relative relationship between the medium and the stuff within it. Right? So what do I do? Again, for all these smart asses out there that didn't figure this out. You know, Muggins figured it out. Muggins done the tests. Right? Well, you're sit there acting like you fucking own the show, misrepresenting me. So this was the very first test I done. As you can see here, you know, what we have, again, connected to the Earth, I'm holding this. This here is an open vessel. This here is an open vessel before anybody starts their word salad mental gymnastics about opened and closed systems, right? It doesn't matter. Okay? So remember, the claim was that it's a relationship between the medium and the matter within it. So as we see here, as I am holding this connected to the Earth, this piece of apparatus is what we call sinking, appearing to go down. Right? Now, if it was just purely a relationship between the medium and that, then that relationship should not change regardless of whether I'm standing on the Earth or whether I'm in free fall, according to these people, because that's their claim. Relative density disequilibrium. Okay? So, what happens? Here, it's let go, as that reaches the level line of the open vessel. So it should now continue on its path here. Oh whoops, it ceases. So what do they come back with? It's because it's all, when the minute you let it go, it's all accelerating in free fall. So hang on now, I'm standing there holding it, so your RDD is now out the window, right? So now you want to shift the goalposts and spew some more mental gymnastics. So as I'm holding this fucking vessel, there's an air bubble rising and there's a thing sinking in it, right? Because of some magical explanation. The minute I let it go, all of a sudden that air bubble stops rising and the thing stops sinking. So what changed about your force? What happened? What do we get back? Impulse. It's the ratio of displacements between the stuffs and the things, and impulse and reasons. It's very, very fucking simple, okay? Claim of an acceleration in a particular direction. In this case, down. Okay, let's take an example. What happens when we accelerate? Oh, that's right, water and air and solids displace relative to each other. Right? Air moves the direction of the acceleration, the direction the force has gone in. Most dense here, least dense here. 100% of the time. Fact. Right? Now, we've got two imbecilic, retarded worldviews now wanting us to abandon practical reality, the facts of what actually happens in actual reality. We've just to throw that all out the window and now accept nonsensical gibberish claims. Now there's a force. There's a force acting down that accelerates everything down. Although the air and the liquids stay in these same positions, they don't invert, contrary to every other example. Not only that, when it reaches the ground, now this force acting down now has air rising against it. Another claim that's contrary and contradictory to every other practical example of acceleration of gas, liquids and solids. So simply put, the reason you arrive at the Earth's motion is because you live in a density gradient. You live in a system where the most dense stuff is here and the least dense stuff is up there. Right? And you can witness it. You can witness an air bubble rising through a medium showing you the direction that the force is travelling in. Right? The reason you know that is because you can accelerate it in any other direction and you can witness the recreation, the reorientation of the realm that you live within. It's that fucking simple. So until you can accept the very basic physics, right, and the fact that the motion vector is that way, you don't have a leg to fucking stand on. The discussion cannot progress beyond that point, I'm afraid. Never mind the rate of the motion, what we're moving through. Is it a linear straight path? Is it a curved path? Is it a figure of eight? Is it an Mobius strip? All that stuff's irrelevant. The fact is that the motion vector is that way. So relative to us within the reference frame, that's upwards. Until you can demonstrate the acceleration of gas, liquids and solids without them showing that pressure gradient, the density gradient. Not only that, can you now demonstrate the acceleration of gas, liquids and solids with air moving against the force vector. That's your reasoning. You have to qualify that. And I guarantee you, you cannot qualify that because it's not fucking reality. It's no my position, it's no my beliefs, it's no my fantasy, it's the real fucking world. It's no my fucking problem if you cannot accept that. If you want to be a globe earther or a stationary flat earther and invoke fantastical, nonsensical, physics that flies in the face of real world physics, you have a fucking problem, no me. So as I said, I predicted that now you would see egos entering the arena. And now we've got egos trying to own it and act like they're the arbitrators of truth and that they're at the cutting edge of the truth. Again, weren't they smart enough to figure it out on their own? Needed me to show them, and even then they resisted it. Now we've got these same people trying to act like they're a step ahead, while they misrepresent me about my apparent claims and my apparent position. I have made my position very, very fucking clear from the very beginning. Deceleration of the water bottle causes displacement. Does it? Does it? Stay there. Stay there. Oh, where the fuck did I put it? Shit, where's it gone? It appears that fucking YouTube have removed it. Along with a few other ones here actually. What is going on here? Wait a minute. Just give me a wee second here. Can I put a wee second just to see if I've got the raw video of that? Actually, that might be a bit better because that's a wee bit fuzzy. Let me see here. I should still have that. Decelerate, there we go. So what you're witnessing here is that the car and everything in the car are now decelerating. Right? Because what's actually happening is that all I'm doing is dipping the clutch. I'm not applying a force like putting the brakes on. Right? Just letting the whole system lose momentum. Decelerating without the displacement of the gas, the liquid and the solid. Don't know why it's lagging like that. It's got something to do with my computer just now. I need to try and figure out what's going on, why my computer's so slow. It's ever since me and Nellis set this new stuff up, it's been lagging really bad, so. But, you know, for the moron in the chat, you need deceleration's a problem because you would displace it. So he's imagining that it's moving up, right? And like if I had a brake system on the bottle, and I used that to slow the bottle down, and the water would travel up to there and it would all slosh, right? Because he's a fucking imbecile and listens to fucking morons. This is what I'm saying about people who think they've got a grasp and really they don't. Right? It's very, very clear that in the case of me in the vehicle, when I simply dip the clutch, the whole system, the car and everything in the car, all lose momentum. The water doesn't slosh about in the bottle, the air doesn't shift. Because it's losing momentum in that vector. Same with that, on its way up. If I had water here and air here, and I fucking fired it up with a fucking, an elastic band, boom, it would go up and it would lose momentum. The water wouldn't all of a sudden jump up to here. The only way that's going to happen is if it meets something up here that resists it. Now it resists the bottle, now the water's going to continue up and it's going to displace in the opposite direction. The reason you're saying these things is because you just don't think. You're equating applying a force, right? That's not what I'm saying's happening. Fucking retards. Total and utter retards. So what are you going to come back and say now? Are you denying 9.8 metres per second is a rate of change there? No. No, not at all. That number is taken from an optical interpretation, not establishing what's going on physically. So optically, yes, there is a change. Optically. Nobody here has ever denied it. You're just another bum-sniffing, ignoramus, cretin, retard. This is what happens when you don't listen to the horse and you run about YouTubes listening to Chinese whispers and wee sweetie mouth bitches with their wee cliquey sweetie mouth hangouts, whinging because somebody responds to them in a comment section. Well, they've got banners under their fucking their channel saying if you're easily offended, stay away. It only takes for somebody to respond to them in a comment section for them to highlight a whole video about how somebody's annoyed them because they responded to them in a comment section. Stop listening to these people, they're fucking imbeciles. It's not optical, it's a measurement. Show me a measurement. Right, Biff Tannen, this is your only chance. Cite me the measurement. that's not optical? Go. There's a physical change. But your worldview, your stupid little retarded globe earth nonsense, interprets the change optically and derives numbers from its optical interpretation, not establishing the physics of what's actually going on. So hurry up, bum sniffer. Cite me it right now. In fact, do you want the link? Does Biff Tannen, do you want the link? Would you like to come in? Chop chop. Chop chop, Biff. Hurry up. Have we have the citations yet? Have you requested to join yet? If you don't, I'm going to ignore you. All we've got now is the cult members of the weak cult globe. This is all they've got. Narcissistic, manipulative tendencies. They cannot reason, they cannot use logic, they cannot engage in rational discussion. All you get's this. Can you please list the positive contributions you've made to science? Can you please list the positive contributions you've made to my cult? Can you cite me, please, the direct measure of physical downwards acceleration? Chop chop. Your worldview, your fucking claim, now back it up. Hurry up, sack rash. Show me how weak you are. Show me how spineless you are. You can't back your position. You can't engage with reason or logic. You have no practical references to support your worldview. All you have is depictions. I sees it. That's the way I sees it and that's the way it is. Because I'm a fucking retard. Yes, the cult of dumb have descended upon us. Let the hilarity begin. I'm so hopeful that one of them is dumb enough to actually come in and try and have a discussion about it. Where's the big brave ones? No, these little fucking pipsqueaks that are sent in. Where's the brave ones? Where's the ones who have conviction in their position? How about they step up to the mark? They're probably fucking dipping each other. That's the behaviour of these wee cult lunatics. Let's open it up in Discord, that's what we'll do. Let's open it up there. Right, let's see. Discord. What one is it I send again? Hang on a minute. Hang on a bloody minute here. Right, so I'm in the members chat room, so let me see here. What is it I do again? No, I don't want to do that. Cancel. Cancel. Invite people. Copy. Right, big brave lads, right, big globe cult fucking members. Let's hear what you've got. Chop chop. Chop chop. Depends what you mean by force. I watch them run and hide. Usual, Realm Walker. The fucking usual. Why am I not getting to drag them in here? What is going on? Right, there's one. Right, there's the other. Hello? Yes, hello? You may have to click unmute on your microphone. Maybe it's too much to figure out. So Taylor Phillips and YV Red Scum we have here saying absolutely fuck all. They can sit there and say nothing. Speak up when you're ready. Oh, Biff Tannen can't today, oh blah blah blah, whatever son. Fuck off. Email me your citations of your physical measure of downwards acceleration.
Well, they need to go back out and log back in again to start talking. You need to tell them that.
Aye, so Taylor Phillips, go back out and I'll drag you back in. YV Red Scum, I've already done that. You should be able to unmute your mic and speak. Exactly, Chris. I'm sick of it, mate. They want to chat when you're no present and misrepresent you, but yet none of them want to come and engage with you directly. It's astounding. So Debro, you can unmute yourselves, and Jason, you can unmute yourself, can't you? I mean, it's not as if it's a big task. I know some of the cult members.
Aye.
What's that? I'll just leave them to figure it out. Biff, you're like a wee effeminate boy, son. Too busy. Dale's shouting. Dale's. Never mind focusing on the person, son. Be a man. Represent yourself in your content, your topic. Stop trying to act like a wee bitchy woman and derail everything into the realms of personality. Because you're a wee fucking effeminate, weak gimp. Grow a set, son. Fucking heart known, you're a big bad man, big bad man, he's intimidating this shit and the other, you fucking wee blouse. Nothing but a wee fucking soy boy bitch fucking blouse. Greeting and whining, you don't like men in the world, are you one of these little creeps that's got an agenda to fucking effeminate the whole fucking world with your fucking weak garble? Probably. Because you've clung to your mummy's apron strings your whole fucking life and sucked on her tits your whole fucking life. You don't know what a man is. You don't know how to be a man. You don't know how to deal with a man. Just a little fucking greeting-faced, whiny bitch. What you on a train for? Huh? Where are you going to meet your boyfriend? I'm going to email you and I bet you won't answer. Oh no, the sheer terror. Oh, Biff the internet faceless gimpoid, effeminate little wankstain is going to email me and I'm going to shite myself. Oh dear. What? Shows you how fucking delusional they are. Listen, fanny wank. Tell me your fucking address and I'll come and chap your fucking door. Right fucking now, sack sniffer. Go! No, I don't want you turning up at my dude, big scary bad man. You might batter me and stuff. So. Fucking absolute fucking retard. Embarrassing, effeminate, shit-stained little fucking arsewipe. From the guy who won't debate actual scientists, get me one. There's a challenge. Go and get one who's willing to have a discussion with me, in particular, only about gravity, force, and actual physics. Go and get one. Go. Send me the emails. It's only been 10 years I've been sitting here waiting. Chop chop, run along, run along. Take your mummy's tit out your mouth and do something. Fuckstick. I bet your wife once beat you a fucking wee tramp, 'cause you don't know what to do with your plonker. Probably in the bathroom or in the shower wanking over other wee soy boys while your missus is desperate for a proper man 'cause you ain't one, son. Which is probably why you're still sucking your mammy's tits. Chop chop. You've came to the wrong fucking rodeo, wee man. Have any of these people figured their mics out yet? No. What I'll do is I'll get another, hang on a minute, let me see. Right, so they're all in here, right? Public room, let's see. Copy link. The ones that have arrived here somehow are silent. No, and where are yous? Stationary flares, globe earthers, where are yous? QNF, how's it going? Me and Emma were in fucking absolute stitches the other night at that video you done of Arwen. My God. The nappy one. Fucking absolute in tears. Trying to go to sleep and I couldn't for the fucking laughter. Arwen sits there and moans and whinges that he's not got an audience. Well, as soon as somebody goes and says anything, he's fucking banning them and screaming and shouting. Motion has asked you for a debate. Did you run away? Tell you want to debate him, shall I? I tell him to come here right now. Chop chop. Debate McToon. Get McToon here right now. Get him. Hurry up, McToon. Where are you? McToon, email me ASAP. Come in here and have a discussion with me about your globe earth fantasy, gravity. Chop chop, sir. This wee fanny, Biff Tannen, whoever here, faceless potato, doesn't realise that all his globe heroes have ran away. Every single fucking one. Where's Conspiracy Cats? Away sniffing about Flatzoid, propping Flatzoids up for talking absolute shite. Another wee shite bag. Where are they? Simon Dan, Conspiracy Cats, McToon, Fight the Fat Tits. Where are yous? ran away, tail between your leg, found out, oh dear, the big bad man comprehends our stupid, idiotic worldview and can tear it to shreds using simple practical physics. It's a wee shame. Can somebody say something in this Discord so that I know that it's actually working?
Hey Del, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's working down.
Nice one.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm good.
Nice one. Good.
I actually messaged McToon. I DM'd him and I told him, you need to go and talk to Del.
Yeah.
Let me find his message. You know, it's on here somewhere. Well, if I can't find it, I remember what he said. He said something like, well, Del's not on my, when he streams, it's basically not in his time, so that was his excuse.
Alright, sounds about right. So I'm a bit animated today, I'm a bit annoyed, I'm sick and tired, I've been fucking misrepresented and, whatever else, so had to get a wee bit of steam off my chest there,
Oh, he's live while I'm working most of the time, which is fair enough.
Alright, aye. Well, I'm sure there must be some Globe representative that's willing to say something stupid.
Yeah, I really don't understand how. I can understand how they talk about, like sort of Einstein's field equations. This is what makes it all. This makes it all real. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll give you the math. But I just don't understand how they can give physical qualities to space-time, to something that I know isn't physical. I don't understand that. So I've kind of been thinking about that lately. I assume they mean it's a mass. The mass is pressing. That's the pressure that's creating this gravity well. I can understand it from that point of view, but it just doesn't make any sense to me at all, though.
No.
So
it's because
it's like my brain.
Sorry, what?
My brain just goes. It just doesn't compute. My brain just goes error.
Yeah. Because
I just keep asking them to explain to me. Please just tell me the mechanism, and they sort of like shut down a little bit.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I mean, regardless, it's a special pleading, for an accelerative force that can accelerate gas, liquids and solids and all matter simultaneously. I mean, the reality is for me is that that's the static field that they're talking about, and we would be moving through it, which would be much more rational, much more cohesive, and would be backed by demonstration, because then you would still have that vector with that being the resistive aspect, true gravity being the resistive aspect, but they don't have it like that. They're trying to say that this static field's the thing acting and causing an acceleration. And as I say, also, the special pleading in that scenario of the gas, liquids and solids all simultaneously accelerating with, air rising contrary to that. I mean, it's just fucking... Even when I start talking about it, I start losing track because it's so backwards. It's ridiculous. How did humanity become so dumb to accept this sort of stuff? It's fucking mind-blowing.
Well, I mean, at least they have some kind of explanation. I mean, it's not a great one, but when I listen to the people promoting the electricity stuffs, I'm like, well, you've still got a force that's acting, that's applying different levels of force to different states of matter. Yeah. This is a big problem.
Exactly.
And they can't seem to see it.
No, but they want that.
And it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so not only that, as I was saying, the force has to apply itself varyingly, given different amounts of force. but still having an acceleration that defies true acceleration, because in true acceleration the air moves towards the front of the acceleration, with the more dense towards the back of the acceleration. They've got it inverted. They want it all accelerating uniformly without that inversion and that orientation of the density gradient. It's preposterous.
Yeah, those people that came in before, they might have been having the problem that some other people are having some issues about unmuting the mic. I don't know, but I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I just jumped in and I was able to speak. So I don't know.
They seem to have vanished now anyway. So I'm not seeing them in here anymore.
Yeah, that's why I thought if they were still listening, they might be able to jump back in. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll stick the link back in the chat side here, and they can feel free to click it. That link that I've just posted brings you into this Discord server. I'm kind of sick of myself getting annoyed at this and coming on to present with that sort of viciousness in me, but my fuse over the years just gets shorter and shorter. It's fucking infuriating. I don't want to have communications like this, but I'm going to express myself on my own platform in relation to these things. But if people are willing to just come to the table and have actual discussion about it, it's fine to ask questions, but don't come with a sea lion fallacy and acting, disingenuous. Have you get genuine questions? It's fine to have genuine questions like any other topic, but you have to be able to engage with reason, logic, rationale. You have to be able to support your position with practical physics, because we're talking about the objective, practical world, and I'm sure, like Andy, you're of an experience of this. You're trying to speak to these people, and they have no practical physics. It's nothing but word salad.
Yeah, this Red, what was it? YV Red Scum, was he one of the guys? Anyway, he just sent me a message saying, "What have you contributed to science?"
Was that it? So he had the opportunity in here and shat it. What does he mean by contributed to science? He's talking about his cult. What have you contributed to my cult, is what he's actually saying. Well, what we're actually doing is highlighting the absurdity of your cult. So what we're contributing to is the true real world, true science, where we're contributing truth, pure analytics and skepticism of absurd gibberish that you and your cult want to keep spewing. So that's what we've contributed to. Not interested in joining your cult.
He seems to have gone quiet now. I don't know. I just asked him if he could open his mic in the server, and no reply. So
yeah. Well, there's another link in the chat on the YouTube channel that people can click if they want to come in. Feel free. Opportunities there. For all these people claiming I run away, yada yada. I think it's quite clear to everybody. The open platform has been here for many, many years. I've not went anywhere, but yet we don't see any sort of reason or discussion from these people.
Keep following Dell, Oakley, and QE.
Don't follow QE or Oakley. They're fucking morons.
Oh my god.
Hey Dell, this isn't synced up to your YouTube view page, is it? Because while looking at the YouTube page, it seems like you're talking about something completely different than what I'm hearing here on Discord.
if you're in the live thing, you have to mute the YouTuber. Yeah, you'll get
I
confused.
have that muted. I'm listening to you here. But when I look at the YouTube page, you're talking, and when the other gentleman is talking on Discord. So I'm just wondering if it's not synced up properly or something.
No, there is a delay. There is a delay
Okay.
from. Aye. Used to have that problem.
No,
Yeah, go for it.
about the Rising Earth, I'm fully on board with all this and what the demonstrations portray. But do you actually think it's possible for this entire mass to be moving?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
I mean,
I have a hard time wrapping my head around what could be doing that to something this immense if we're actually seeing what it actually is.
well, that's just incredulity then, John, which is
Right.
no a Tarnley showing you it's just true. I mean, how are we supposed to wrap our minds around the creation of this realm and the whole goings on of it? The whole lot's massive, but that's why I said at the beginning of this, look, the facts are that the vector's demonstrably acting upwards. And if anybody wants to claim it's contrary to that, then they're going to have a real tough time without invoking special pleading and some otherworldly physics. So that's purely where I'm at. The rest of it, is there for investigation. I mean, even without the motion thing, if you just say that it's a stationary Earth, then wrap your mind around that. How can that be created? How can that be sustained? Just because we're incredulous to these things does not mean that, it's not happening.
Right. I get you. I just wish I could see that part a little clearer.
Yeah, I mean,
because everything else makes sense to me.
I mean, if a child observes a vehicle going down the road, I mean, they're totally incredulous to the internal combustion engine and the complexities and the workings of a motor vehicle. But, that doesn't mean to say it's not happening.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm at with people. They're running away into these other avenues of, just like you say, John, trying to comprehend how it could be sustained, what it looks from the outside, what its actual trajectory is, yada yada. They're running away from the fact that there's no physical downwards acceleration and that the motion, the vector, is demonstrably acting upwards. That's where we're at. That's the reality of the situation. The rest of the claims that have been put out there are certainly not coming from me. And people are running away with that. They're looking for ways out of those points that I just made. No physical downwards acceleration, the vector's acting upwards. That's a fact. So rather than accepting that and starting from there, they're running away ahead, trying to find another gotcha in order to avoid those physical fact parts. But you can't. Yeah.
That's something I can't grasp. Why can't they look at what's being presented to them and just take it from there? And why do they have to just try and find something else that is contrary to what's being said here and demonstrated here? That's what drives me nuts. It's being demonstrated.
Yeah. It's because they're operating from a bias. They've presupposed their worldview, that being either a globe or a stationary Earth, and they can't let go of that presupposition, that bias. So they're blinding themselves and cutting themselves off because of that, for whatever reasons only they know.
I was on Karen's channel yesterday, Sun and Moon Family United. Are you familiar with her? I brought up the topic to her, and she was very accepting of it. She's willing to look at it, but I was getting attacked in her chat big time.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. People are talking about divisions and attacks. Again, the division came from this being presented, and the divisive nature is from those people. Those are the ones that had the adverse emotionally impulsive reaction. They've severed any communications. They caused the divide. Certainly wasn't me. I just walked a path of practical physics, took the claims that were being put to me, showed physically that those claims were not what was happening in reality, and then came to the conclusion that this is what's actually happening. Now from there, they've spun off into emotional depth and spewed their emotional impulse all over the fucking place and severed communication, created camps, created division. You know, and from there they've identified that it's an us against them dichotomy, and double down. They don't observe the demonstrations. They don't, you know, seek to comprehend the topic in any way, shape or form. It's purely cult mindset where, you know, you're just identified as somebody that goes against their cult bias, and from here on in, anything you say can just be ridiculed, ignored, name calling, because that's it. In their mind, it's solid. You're an opposition to their position.
Could get an argument for me.
Yeah.
See it as well.
Yep. But as I say, it's so laughable. You know, we've heard for years about cognitive dissonance and these sorts of emotional reactions that I've heard flerfs regurgitate over and over again, yet they are so blind to their own cognitive dissonance. You know?
I wish I could understand what causes that in certain people. Why they just can't let go of that and just open themselves up to what's being presented.
Yep. Well, if I analyse it, mate, that's the only conclusion I can come to. It's because they're emotionally attached to some false concept of their reality. And that's the problem. I'm not the one that's trying to, you know, produce some overall encompassing theory of everything in some model that shows everything. It's these people that are doing that. I'm simply walking a slow path of trying to assess my reality. I'm listening to claims that are being made to me about my reality. I'm then putting those claims to the test and finding that those claims are wrong. These people seem to have the problem because they're adopting a model. Now, if people can go back to my very first content in YouTube where I spoke openly about models and adopting them and yada yada, that's never been my process. So the only thing I can conclude is that they're emotionally attached to something that they don't actually comprehend. And they're aware that they don't actually comprehend it, but they're scared of being wrong. And they don't want to have that ego deflation where they are wrong and they have to now correct themselves and admit that they've been ignorant. I think that, to me, that's the only thing I can pick from it. That seems to be what's going on.
Probably true, Del, for sure.
I just stopped questioning the motivations of these people. I used to be obsessed with like Freemasons and all that sort of stuff. Like why are they doing it? But then all of a sudden they were like, well, it might be what the reason you just said. It might be because they're really stupid. It might be something. And then I just, at some point, I just made my peace with that. I was just like, I don't care which one it is. And it's not helping pushing these speculations of what it may be. It's not helping anything.
No.
So I just sort of kind of stopped with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It does have to be an emotional attachment. It can't be an intellectual one.
No.
It's like being in a relationship and your partner, you know, decides that she's no longer in love with you, and you can't accept that. You believe she still is.
Yeah.
You want her to be.
Well, I've listened to, I don't want to mention any names, but I've listened to flat earthers talk about reference frames for hours, literally hours, and then this is brought up, and suddenly they don't know. They're like, what? They don't understand a different frame of reference. It's like, what?
Yeah, it
So-
doesn't fit for them.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but, you know, as I said before, you know, you hear these same flares talking about apparent horizons, apparent convergence, apparent this, you know, but yet they can't get past that their apparent downwards acceleration is only apparent, you know. And it's no complicated physics, it's very simple. This is what happens under conditions of acceleration. You're claiming acceleration, which is contrary to actual acceleration, so there's a problem in your reasoning. And they're squirming and wriggling to avoid taking responsibility for their position.
Yeah, I sort of just reached this point where I'm like, I can't imagine this place not how would this place work without the motion? It just doesn't make any sense to me anymore.
No. I mean, that's what we're left with. That's the be all and end all, isn't it? I mean, you know, I wrote that down. You know, it comes down to whether you believe it's all accelerating down or all losing momentum equally. Now let's test it. That's pretty much the only thing that you've got to work with. You know, there is no other option. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Too distracted. This is lagging.
Okay.
Sorry, what were we saying there? I keep getting distracted because this is lagging and taking its time to switch screens. Aye. Sorry, I remember. I mean, it's as simple as that. Either there's a force that's accelerating everything towards the ground equally, right? Or it's us that's moving through something, and you know that's what we're witnessing in that vector. So you know it's that simple. If you're going to claim acceleration, then this is what acceleration looks like. If we're not witnessing that under your claim of acceleration, then that's not what's going on.
I wish we had had this conversation. I had had this conversation with you prior to my jumping out of that airplane, because honest to God, when you jump until the chute opens, there's no sensation of falling whatsoever.
No, exactly.
I would have paid much closer attention to what was going on had I had this conversation prior to that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm willing to jump out of an airplane again.
Well, when you fall in, you quote unquote, you sort of your stomach comes up to your throat, doesn't it?
It does. It is a roller coaster type thing, you know, going down a hill in an automobile. It didn't happen when you jumped out of the plane, though.
Right, but the thing is, it just shows you that this place needs orientation. That's what it tells me, anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. And as you were saying, trying to imagine this place without that vector, it'd be, you know, stationary earthers don't realise that they're advocating total and utter chaos, a realm of total chaos, you know. And what have we got? What have we got now? Electrostatics and all this stuff that they keep going on about. It's the same as a globe Earth. You know, utilise your electrostatic shows, recreate buoyancy and density, halt buoyancy and density, increase the displacement rate of buoyancy and density, invert the pressure gradient using electrostatics. You know, you should be able to achieve these things if that's what the reality is. You know?
I mean, I sort of try and I give the globe every chance. I don't know, maybe it's my naivety. I don't know what it is, but I sort of give them every chance. But I think deep down, I know, and you know as well, that they're never going to be able to show any kind of force that's going to apply different levels of force to different states of matter. It just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense.
Is it because we're accelerating against the motion that we feel our stomach come up? You know, like when you're in a roller coaster or in an automobile going against that vector? Is our stomach actually coming up because we're forcing ourselves to go against that upward vector?
I would say it's just because you're removing the force. That's the thing that's keeping your density internally.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
And its orientation, you know. I mean, look, I'll read this comment, right? Why must acceleration be an outside force? Why can't the acceleration be something that is generated within the fall due to the mediums themselves?
Not sure if I got that.
Why must acceleration? Because, you know, again, you know, they're talking in this regard that matter somehow can move itself, or matter has an orientation internally within it, because this is the mental gymnastics that people go through, again, trying to maintain a worldview that's just wrong and absurd. You know, so if you believe that, then you can demonstrate that you can manipulate it. Like, you know, with safety stationary earthers all the time, they'll say things like, oh, well, the medium beneath can't support it, so it goes down. Well, the medium can't support it 360 degrees around it, so why does it not go off in any other direction? You know, if you believe that it's a relationship of the matter, you now have to establish that matter itself can spontaneously move in any vector just because it's matter. It's nonsense. Force is external to matter. Matter moves because something external acted upon it. Why am I having to actually even explain that is the thing that annoys me?
That's funny, actually.
It's funny.
Yeah, I noticed a few people, and me included, I guess. You know, I had to chew this over for a while because I'm a sort of big picture guy. You know, like I connect the dots, and then it was that loss of momentum that really sort of made it click in. And I was like, oh yeah, I see what he's saying now. And I think there's a few people don't sort of recognise that it's still going in the same direction, this falling object. Like Jaron, for instance, said, it's floating, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people sort of get lost in that sort of bit. They don't quite get that it's still moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
Because of momentum. But I remember I wanted to ask you, Del, about terminal velocity. I'd like to talk. I mean, could you talk about that for a little bit? Because
Yeah, that would be interesting, though.
what do you think happens when it sort of reaches its true zero, if you will? Is it floating then? Is it just sort of stationary then?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If you know, is there a point that we can ever have matter truly stationary? You know, terminal velocity can just be termed as, you know, the constant rate of an object's, you know, if it's consistent at a set rate, then that would be its terminal velocity. But for me, I would say true terminal velocity is total stationary. You know, I think it's in the title.
Yeah.
You know, but whether or not we could ever, you know, achieve that, who knows? You know, what would we need? A long enough tower, vac tooth, that we can, you know, do various tests. You know, what you know, in the skydive scenario, what I would love to see is a free fall for a period of time, and then have like the bottle of water, and then, you know, have, if you're doing a jump with a group of people, throw the bottle of water, throw the accelerometer at each other, maybe with a camera attached, and observe what actually goes on within it.
Wow. That would be cool.
Yeah. Because I would predict that whatever direction you throw it in, the gradient's just going to orientate to that vector.
So are you saying the bottle would continue its rate of deceleration equal to the skydivers in free fall, or when you let the bottle go or try and throw it, would the distance between the two of you change? Try to picture that. Would the bottle would the bottle lose? God, how to word this properly for you, if you can see what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, if we free fell for a period of time, you know, in the bottle, you have the bottle in your hand and it still has that orientation of the water at the bottom and the air at the top. Right, now if you've got somebody laterally across from you, free falling, you know, with you, and you throw that towards them, what do you think is going to happen to the contents of the bottle?
If you throw it, the water's going to move, the air's going to move forward, and the water's going to move back towards the thrower.
And will it stay orientated like that until it contacts the ground, or there's a contact between the earth and the vessel?
No, it would stay like that until it came in contact with either the other skydiver or the ground, right?
Yeah, that's the question.
As long as the motion continued.
Yeah, so there's so many of these sort of tests I would love to conduct. You know, I can make predictions on what I think would happen, but I would love to actually partake in them, or get other people to partake in them and see what actually happens in those conditions. You know, again, with the deceleration aspect, you know, again, we're talking about, you know, a visual reference where, you know, we see a gap decrease between the earth and the object that's let go. So this is what I was addressing with, you know, guys like Jimmy Too Fast or whatever misrepresenting me. I've never made any definite in that regard. The only definite I've said is that there's a constant going on, whatever that constant may be, because weight is constant, you know, indefinitely. But whether we're in some sort of, you know, circular trajectory, which, you know, would be a form of acceleration, I don't know. I've not done enough tests to fully establish that yet. As I keep saying, there's so much to be understood and to be delved into, questions to be asked. But we shouldn't be still asking questions about, you know, the direction that the force is going in, and, you know, free fall and the arguments about downwards acceleration. For me, it's as simple as there's no downwards acceleration, the force is acting upwards. So until people get on board with that, then, you know, let's progress into the other questions and see if we can devise way to establish certain things that may be going on.
I think you've given us a good baseline, Bill.
Yeah, as I say, you know, if I postulate things like, well, there's a constant motion and there's a constant resistance, right? So people will say, okay, now that we're talking about ethers, we're talking about fields and yada yada. Now, it's all very well that people can say, oh, you need to prove that. Well, I would ask questions about things like, okay, if I have a huge vacuum chamber, the biggest I can get my hands on, and that chamber's vacuumed out to the best that we can get, as close to a vacuum as we can get it, so you've reduced air resistance as much as possible. Now in that vacuum, we accelerate, say, a lead weight of a set known weight on the earth right outside the vacuum, and we accelerate it. Will that lead weight resist the motion? If the lead weight...
Good, yeah.
Yes, so if it's resisting the motion, what's causing the resistance?
Upward acceleration.
No, I'm talking about a scenario in a vacuum, right? If we've removed...
But the motion is still there, so the lead is still subject to it.
Yeah, but if we then say put that bit of lead into free fall inside the vacuum, okay, and then we had a lateral acceleration, right, against that lead, why would it increase in weight? Why would it resist that? It has to be, again, just like force external. If matter is resisting motion, are you going to then say it's internal, something internal in the matter is resisting the motion? Or is the matter attached to something external which is resisting that motion? Do you understand what I mean?
I'm attempting to. I think I am.
What I'm saying, what I'm getting at is if there's not another factor, right, of resistance, for one, can we agree that the resistance is not internal to the object and neither is force?
Internal, you said? Right, I agree.
Right. So if matter is being accelerated in a vacuum where there's no air resistance, why do we get a resistance of that motion? That would suggest to me that there is something else that the matter's attached to. Call it whatever you like. People call it ether, you know, yada yada. I can't get past that part, that matter does resist the motion. So why is it resisting it?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to picture this. So you're saying, say you had you were able to create a long vacuum chamber, say a mile long, and you somehow accelerated that lead weight in the vacuum chamber. Are you saying eventually it would fall to the ground and it wouldn't continue its motion, right?
Yeah.
What you're saying?
So say it was in a tower and it was a vertical one, right? So now you've got the lead weight sitting on a little scale, right, giving you a reading. So there's no air resistance in there. Now we accelerate it upwards in that vector already. Why would the weight increase? Because there's no air there to say that it's the air resistance that's giving it the increase in weight.
You're saying the weight would increase in the vacuum, Del?
Yes, if you accelerated it upwards.
Okay. good question.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying about asking questions about these things, because they suggest then that there is something else there going on. You know, when I listen to people talking about, oh, the Earth would have to be constantly accelerating, it's because they're talking in regards to being in a medium of a vacuum, that matter is only existing in a void with no attachment to any other background medium. So if you remove one of those mediums like air, where they would say that's causing the resistance, then why does the matter resist the motion? If I'm already accelerating it in the vector that it was moving in, then why should it resist? Why should I get an increase in weight? So that tells me that there's something there causing the resistance to matter's motion. Just, you know, if you put your hand in a bath of water and you move your hand, you know that your hand's being resisted by that medium. So that's what's giving the resistance, right? So if I remove air, I remove water, and there's no, you know, what we would call medium there, and that's accelerated up, I still get an increase in what we call weight, so the resistance is still there.
Oh, you're freaking me out here. I don't have an answer for that.
But this is why I say about the globe earth model, they have an inversion. For me, there's a background medium that we move through that gives matter its resistance, and that resistance is equal. So stationary Earth and these proponents want us to be stationary, and this background field, whether it's electrostatics or ether or whatever, is the thing that's moving through us.
You don't think electrostatics play a role at all in the motion or with the motion? It's
Yeah,
completely...
yeah, very well could be, as I keep saying. You know, this is what I'm saying. There's so many aspects of this that requires more than one man to set out and do tests in and ask questions and devise tests to see if your hypothesis is correct, or, you know, it's fallible, or, you know, you find something contrary. You know? So
Is there any way you could remove any possible magnetic field within the vacuum? Can you test to see if a magnetic field would exist within the vacuum? I'm just wondering if that could have some kind of play in it.
No, that's again, it can be tested. As I said to the electrostatic people before, well, a Faraday cage apparently shields from these things. So,
Right.
well, you know, again, if I drop something in a Faraday field and the downward current or whatever cannot penetrate it, then should an object not just float exactly where I let it go?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I say, these people don't ask questions. They're no sceptical of even their own position. They're just operating from total bias and pursuing it, you know, with aggression and blind, you know, ignorance. As I keep saying, I'm not omitting, you know, the electrostatic aspect of the realm or electromagnetism or any of these things. I do, however, have a gripe with the claim that it can create gradients and, you know, be responsible for buoyancy and density. It can accelerate gas, liquids and solids simultaneously. I have a real issue with that.
Right. That I don't agree with at all. Mm-hmm. The motion covers all that.
Yeah.
100% behind that.
Same as the RDD thing. If it's a relationship between the object and the medium, then that relationship shouldn't change regardless of whether it's on the Earth or whether it's in freefall, because it's a relative relationship between those two factors. But yet we clearly see that stops in freefall.
That's where you got me, buddy. That's where you convinced me. I said, whoa. Because I was a little skeptical at first when you brought this up.
Yeah.
When you started presenting that, I said, whoa. Whoa.
Well, that's good. You know, you have to have that skepticism. Nobody should just be hearing me or anybody else speaking and taking things verbatim. You know, if you're not skeptical, you'll never get through a process of actually comprehending and realising certain things, you know. But the difference with people like yourself is that you hear something through your own skepticism, and you seek to try and comprehend and test and see what's going on. You don't automatically revert to some belief bias and double down on your belief bias while hand wave dismissing. You know, that's the difference.
That's true, but we have a lot of those lies still in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be able to get past them.
Yeah. As I was talking the other day, I can't remember who was bringing it up, but you know, you can comprehend, and I have compassion in that regard. People have lived a whole life having this assumption that there's an up and a down, right? And you're now trying to show them and highlight to them, listen, there's no such thing as down. Down's a relative orientation to you as the observer. It's not an actual physical vector that's in reality. You know, that's not an easy thing for people to grasp based on their whole life experience and perception, you know. But as I say, if they were a globe believer and they did comprehend the globe belief, then the globe has been telling them their whole life that there's no such thing as up. Up is relative, and the only true vector is down. So again, for me, the globe earth simply inverted the true nature of reality by stating there's no such thing as up. Up is relative, because up to somebody in Australia is different to up for somebody in South America or somebody in the UK. You know, you know that, they've done that with their model. So now I'm just simply saying the inversion of that. There's no such thing as down. Down's relative to you, the observer. There only is one true vector, and that's upwards, relative to you as the observer within the reference frame.
Yeah, they sure did do that to us, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times have people, maybe people are not aware of that. I don't mean you like use, I'm just saying in general. The globe earth teaches you that. Up is not a true vector, it's a relative orientation. Or a relative.
I remember being taught that.
It's a relative direction. Well, if you think about it on a globe, where's up? How can you have a universal up? You can't. But on a globe earth, they can have a universal down, because they define their down as to the centre of their geometric shape, in this case a sphere.
That's also how they can have their plumb bobs not be parallel to each other.
Right, which is ridiculous. You know?
Absolutely.
Totally ridiculous. Plumb bobs are treated, and always have been treated, as parallels. There is not a structural engineer on this plane that would dare come forward and assert that they operate from non-parallel plumbs, because nothing in their constructions, nothing that they account for would ever work. They all assume and treat the earth and everything here as plumbs being parallel to each other.
I absolutely accept that. My plumb would be parallel to yours.
Yep. And that's the reference point for level. Again, another thing that a lot of flat earthers keep overlooking and don't comprehend. You know, level's not some objective thing out there. It's a result. It's an effect of. You know, it's an orientation. Same as horizontal. Horizontal is an orientation. If I take a set square, you know, an intersection of two straight lines at 90 degrees perpendicular to each other, and I put that in three-dimensional space, well, your two straight lines remain straight lines and remain perpendicular to each other, right? So you've got two straight lines perpendicular, but you don't have level. You don't have horizontal, because level and horizontal are orientations. Now you have to have a vector on that set square in order for it to establish level.
Right.
So again, in reality, we reference the plumb, the vector. And from that vector, we can establish level, because it's always perpendicular to the motion vector. So say for me, everything... Sorry, on you go.
No, I was just going to say, great work though. I mean, for me, you've been a blessing, for sure.
Oh, appreciated, mate. Appreciated. Some
I
people.
appreciate what you brought forward. Still pisses me off that you got it before I did, but I'm extremely grateful. Extremely grateful.
At least you're man enough to say that out loud. There's a lot of men out there who are acting because of that, you know. They never figured it out. And now, as I say, I'm seeing guys who are advocating for the motion of the earth, but they're misrepresenting me and trying to act like they're superior to me now in the whole game, which is, you know, a reflection of them and their mindset. I really couldn't give a fuck. I'm not interested in hierarchy or cult of personality or stature raising. It is of no interest to me whatsoever.
Too many big egos out there.
Aye,
Doesn't make sense.
exactly, mate. You know, you're a man that's admitted that, you know, and what happened? Nothing bad happened to you. You never lost face, did you? You never became less of a man.
I look at it exactly the opposite. I feel blessed that I had the opportunity to learn this, to experience this. I mean, I'm telling you, I actually got goosebumps when it hit me that, shit, man, Del's spot on with this freaking shit.
But it's nice. Sorry, when you go.
Sorry, I was just going to say I like it because, as I said before, I'm a big picture guy, and I like the idea that I can put a cause now to buoyancy and density. You know, it just fits perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, motion, buoyancy and density. And on what you were just talking about, that always makes me think of like two buildings in New York, say, 10 miles apart. They should the top should be measurably a lot much wider than the bottoms. I always think of that. And I like it when William talks about plumb and level as well. I like it when anybody talks about it because I'm not the most practical person at all.
Yeah.
So that's why I appreciate you, Del, because you know, you don't want me putting your shelves up. So I like listening to practical people, and I like to think I can learn a bit stuff like that. And William as well, I like listening to him talk about plumb and level, the motion causing the level, the orientation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, shit. Never thought of that.
Yeah. It's great to see, you know, I really appreciate people like yourselves and William, Andrew. You know, that's the beauty of this for me. That's success. When you see that people can grasp it, and because it's cohesive, it's practical, it becomes very simple. And the more and more that you focus on it, the clearer the absurdities stand out at you. Now when you look at these other claims, you can tear them apart and expose that they're just total and utter nonsense, you know? So you don't have to be that practical, as long as you can, you know, follow and comprehend the physics of your reality. Then it should become very, very easy, because in reality it's not that difficult. It's just the life's experience of a warped perception that makes it difficult, you know.
You gotta have a little bit of understanding, because you've attempted to warp all of our perception.
Yeah.
Completely 180 degrees opposite of what reality probably really is.
Yeah.
So I try not to get angry with these people, even though it's difficult. But
Nah, as I say, I would only have anger for myself that you know, I was too incredulous and too dumb, too caught up in my own narcissism and my own ego to ever address any of these assumptions that I held in life. That, for me, I take responsibility for that. I don't need to blame anybody else, you know. I was born into it and I bought into it blindly, you know, so that's my responsibility. And now it's my responsibility. I can take it back, I can correct myself, admit I was wrong, and then you progress and you move forward, and you don't lose anything by doing that. You gain much more and learn a lot about yourself, you know.
Oh, do you think we're all on an individual journey here, and it's not possible to take others with us? We're either here to learn and be on the right path or not. I mean, do you think that's a reality?
I struggle with these sorts of questions. We were talking a little bit about that. I don't know if you were there the other day, and you know, asking questions of whether you know, you've got to question: are you actually in control of anything that you've done in your life, or is this written a certain way that it all unfolds and you think you're participating? And and having ideas of taking other people on the journey and yada yada. I mean, I don't know. I've got so many questions unanswered in that regard about the bigger picture of here. I can only be responsible for me. You can only be responsible for you. I think if we start taking the responsibility of the world on our shoulders, we can cause ourselves some serious damage. After that conversation the other day, we were talking about people looking for meanings to life and yada yada. And if I was going to try and ascribe some sort of meaning that would be beneficial to transcend this reality, maybe it's a holding pen for us to deal with our own narcissism. How could you be let loose on a wider community of intelligence and balance when you're containing some unbalanced narcissistic tendency? How could that be fruitful for a wider community outside of Earth? And I'm just postulating this as a possibility.
Makes sense.
And thinking about it in that regard, that my whole life I've been learning about my own projections, my own expectations, my own narcissism, my own neurotic behaviours. I'm learning and reflecting constantly in that regard, and that's helped me to progress. So maybe I could ascribe that the reason for this reality is that we have to go through these processes so that if we transcend and go to some other wider community, we are more balanced. We can walk in our own shoes without being needy and manipulative to others. I mean, that's me maybe projecting my utopia and what I would hope for as a heaven.
I'm exactly on board with that,
Yeah.
Bill. I always figured if we get to a point where we actually can experience each other's emotions, so you can sense what the other who the other person is, rather than try and have them give you it through words and say who they are, which is usually always a lie because people never really admit who they are.
Yeah.
That's the type of reality I would want to experience as well. So.
I mean,
I'm not sure you would actually, because I've got a bit of that, the old empath in me, and it's not very pleasant. Honestly, it's really not, because you can feel that energy, and it's like, ugh. I had to learn all kinds of little things. One of the spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle, he really helped me with that, by the way, just for anybody listening.
Yeah.
And there's lots of good spiritual teachings out there. There's a lot of good philosophies, but at some point you just realise that it ends up being like mental masturbation.
Yeah.
And that's why I end up when I finally started seeing Del, I was like, yes, this is something else now. I've reached a good place mentally and spiritually inside myself. This is something else, the practical world. What is this realm? Where are we?
Exactly.
That to me, that's like a secondary thing. That first thing, that was really important for me.
Yeah.
Finding more about who we are. That would be the primary question. But the secondary question is, where are we? What is this place?
Exactly.
So
the only two things we know for certain, in my opinion, is that we come into this world. I've witnessed my son come into this world, so I know it happens, and that we leave this world. Everything in between, to me, is complete confusion.
Yeah. That empathy thing, I think it's been a very useful tool for that reflective aspect. That's what allows you to learn about yourself and see it in others, which is very useful. But if you're in an unbalanced place and your empathy is just opened and you're not applying any skepticism and rationale to your empathy, then you're going to become an absolute mess. So I have to be very cautious about where I put my attention in that regard. And because, as you say, you end up engaging in mental masturbation and inducing emotions in yourself and feeling sorrowful and woeful and yada yada. But just as that postulation, I've always wondered that about people's notions of a god, and I'm like, that kind of speaks to what I'm talking about right now. If it was a case that we're here to learn, then surely the only god I could be on board with is that one of equal, who wants us to realise that we can stand on our own 2 feet. We don't have to manipulate, we don't have to be narcissistic, we don't have to be needy and cause dramas and yada yada. That would be the only heavenly utopia that I could go on board with, where I can walk in my path, enjoy my experience, and you walk in yours without you needing to impose yours on me or me to impose mine's on you. Does that make sense? So, you know, like these notions of gods, I mean, a lot of them are subservience and hierarchy and that sort of structure, and I'm like, how can you get on board with that sort of structure? That just doesn't float my boat at all. A realm of equality, which would make sense in that regard to this realm, where I have to learn about my own narcissism, my own, you know, insecurities, and my own tendencies, and how that affects other people, and yada yada. Then maybe I could progress into a higher realm of communication and experience with you know, more enlightened people. You know what I mean? Just as a postulation, I'm saying, you know, I'm not saying that's the truth, but I always find these philosophical musings a bit ridiculous when people start invoking hierarchy. You know, it seems a bit, you know, too samey, trying to transpose the shit that we live in right now to some other heavenly realm, as if that's how it would be. I dread to think that. If that's the case, I'm fucking out. You know? I don't
Yeah,
want...
I have.
I don't want to end up...
I
Sorry. Right.
No, I was just going to say, depending on what day you catch me, I'm mostly peaceful these days, but occasionally I do get these weird days where I'm like, I'm just not aligning with the universe or whatever. I just want to go and put the covers over my head, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I sort of think on a more negative day that it feels like in a people farm that I'm being experimented on in various different ways, whether it be some kind of social engineering or whatever it is. And it's like, it's not a very nice feeling, really. It's not a nice place to be.
No.
Yeah, though this place is just exactly the opposite of that heaven you want, because they won't let us who we are here.
Yeah.
We always have to follow their rule.
Yeah. There's no...
We should be able to live our lives as long as we're not causing any harm, injury, or loss to another. We should be able to live and be who we are.
Yeah.
It's been taken away from us from the time we entered grammar school.
But maybe...
Take our identity away.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Maybe that can't happen here in this realm. Which brings us to, you know, whole other questions about what this realm actually is. What are we assuming about this realm? As I was saying the other day, there's a lot of assumptions that this is inherently a good thing that's happening to us right now, and that there's some goodness behind it all. And you know, we've heard these mantras through our lives that life's precious and life's this and life's that. And I've always, you know, struggled and went, where are we getting that? Who can show me that it's inherently good that we're existing here right now? To what ends and to what purpose? You know, and as I said the other day, if you remove human beings from the equation and you just take a look at the natural world in general, it's a hideous place. But we're born and we have these mantras that it's a special, great place, and I'm like, really? Really? So everything eats everything else in order to sustain itself. To what ends? What's the ultimate end goal of that? You know? So I'm very cautious about what assumptions I make about this place and any attachments that I have to it in that regard, because I don't know enough, and what I can witness for myself I cannot resolve to some, you know, loving, you know, realm or whatever, you know. I mean, you look at a simple thing like an antelope, you know, it's equipped to run and eat grass, you know, but it's preyed upon by something that's 10 times more powerful than it, with fucking sharp teeth and claws that can tear it to fucking shreds. I mean, how do you resolve that?
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of people who believe this place was created by a benevolent God and not a benevolent one.
Yeah.
This place is exactly as it was created.
And
I mean, it looks pretty. I mean, the land, the water, you know, the landscape, stuff like that. When you get down to what you were talking about, it's not a pretty place.
Well, as I always say, you know, Hansel and Gretel went into the house because it was pretty. You know, oh look, it's made of shortbread and lovely stuffs. You know, I'm not blinded by that aspect. As I say, the only thing I can identify that I have any real value over is the other sentience that I'm sharing the experience with. The rest of it, I really cannot place any value on it whatsoever.
I kind of reached a harmonious place within myself, and it really was sort of more of a recognition of spirit rather than the flesh. And without wanting to turn it into some biblical or religious themed stream you're doing, Del, I've heard you talk about, this place is an abomination, and I can definitely see why people would see it that way as well.
Yeah.
But I always think that we're viewing it through because we're limited. People are limited.
Exactly.
So viewed through that limitation, then there'll always be conflict.
Exactly.
There must be conflict.
That's the thing, isn't it? We're trying to, rationalise it through our own, individual experience, which is not a big enough picture. I don't have access to the bigger picture to comprehend, what the true nature of this place actually is. So it's a very difficult subject to grind down on. But it's great to muse and have these discussions. And again, I have to caveat this by saying that anything I've said here is purely musings. Nothing that I've said is my position or my beliefs or any of that stuff before anybody goes running with it. I'm not talking about you guys, I'm just talking in general. I feel as if you have to caveat these things continually because people hear it and automatically ascribe a position to you. When it's not, it's just, as you say, we ask questions and I've always said that we don't have enough, knowledge of the bigger picture to make any definite assertions,
Well, what is the claim that we only see 1% of what's actually out there or something like that?
Visible light spectrum, apparently,
So, that what you're saying is very true.
But even getting back to a wee minute ago when you mentioned the religious aspect, it's my understanding, and feel free to correct me, anybody, but was it not in the Bible something along the lines of Satan took Jesus to the highest mountain and showed him the realm and said, I'll give you access, the freedom of the realm and stuff? Well, even in those religious teachings, it's teaching you that this place is not that creator that you worship as your God. It's the opposite. It's that, malevolent type creature that's responsible for this place. And I'm saying that in regards to the religious people out there.
Yeah, I have a very different take on that. I see the sort of ego, if you will. I could also call it the sort of filing cabinet. That's a good way to look at it. I see that as the sort of the great Satan, if you will. I know it's connected to the sky. I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's kind of the way I see it. The great deceiver. I think it's largely symbolic. That's where I am at the moment. This is sort of ever changing for me, though. So the mind is very powerful, isn't it? And I think these people, I'm talking about the Hebrews now, they try to point to it in such a way, in my opinion, and people take these things literally.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. Every time I talk to them, I'm like, I don't want to make fun of them either, though, because I definitely see why. I don't talk to a Bible literalist and just want to make fun of them. I want to hear their perspective. I want to know why, and I get it. In some ways, I completely understand because it gives them that reference point, that ontological reference point, and they say, look, whatever else is happening in the world, this can be my baseline.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of the millennial reign theory people are talking about?
No, man.
That Christ, people are, according to Bible believers now, they're waiting for Christ to return and save everybody. According to the millennial reign theory, Christ already has come back. They quote scripture showing that unless Christ was a liar, he came back a long time ago, and people already lived under his reign for 1,000 years. And then after that 1,000-year millennial reign, the time at which all those ancient structures were built that we don't build anymore today, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Del.
Yeah.
After that 1,000-year reign, Satan was released from the pit for a short season to reign over the earth. That's what these people are claiming.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, there's not much we can. It's a bit frustrating talking about this because, I was an alcoholic for many years, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I've lived in hell, and it was right here. So
Yeah. So there's that.
so now I have a very clear perspective of what hell is like. Well, I think anyway, because it was a fucking nightmare. So, and that was brought on by me. Well, old emotion that needed to be addressed and that kind of stuff as well. So once that was addressed, the alcoholism just went away, and yeah, there's no issue whatsoever. But as I say, we sort of deceive ourselves.
Yeah.
So people love to say, it's the Jews, it's these, it's them.
Yeah.
But just look in the mirror. Look no further than that person
Exactly.
who's causing you all the shit.
Exactly.
Address that first.
Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier about taking that responsibility, you know. So say claims have been put to me in my life, you've got NASA, you've got these companies, and you have people with the attitude, oh, that NASA has to be, you know, hang them from the lampposts and this, that and the other, and I'm like, nah, I don't need to, now with discernment, people only offer products and ideas. If I buy into those products, those ideas, those concepts, then I have made my own bed. I become subject to my own creation, whatever I buy into. But that's where people have to take that responsibility. You can't constantly look outside of yourself and blame somebody else. It's different if we have a criminal act, like I walk up and shoot you, then that's not your responsibility, that's something totally different. But if you're being affected by society, ideas, beliefs, yada yada, then that's your responsibility. You bought into those things. If you place an expectation on yourself of having a particular life and then you don't, you know, achieve those certain things, then you get an adverse effect from that and you start a process of victimhood and woe's me and yada yada, blaming the world, when the reality is that you set yourself up for that by what you bought into, you know?
You know, did you see NASA's recent claim that they fired up the thrusters on Voyager again? And it had a clogged fuel line, and they were able to repair it from here. I can't believe they put these freaking stories out. I mean, you have a clogged fuel line in your backyard. It's difficult to feel, let alone something that's what billions of light years away now, or whatever they claim.
It's
Oh my
amazing.
God, I saw that story. I said, is anybody reading this and actually accepting this?
You know, it's amazing feats that these people can achieve, you know, everything's repaired instantaneously without any problems, you know, in these adverse conditions, and, you know, remote control repairs, and like, come on, to be honest with you, you know, I pay very little attention to any of the mainstream stuff, NASA and SpaceX and these sorts of things. Every now and again I have a little dabble just for my own entertainment, you know, but to me they're totally irrelevant.
I see these headlines come up sometime, and I read a little bit of the article, and I just start laughing.
Aye. That was like last night. I was reading an article about a school in Scotland who have had to recognise some child now identifies as a wolf. I mean, you know, well, the cutting edge of civilization, we're going to Saturn and Mars and the moon and space stations, but, you know, 7-year-old children want to become the opposite sex or identify as wolves and this, that and the other. I mean, the whole place is a fucking joke, honestly.
Well, in my wildest dreams, I mean, I was born in 1954, and, you know, through those years that I grew up in, there's no way anybody could have ever told me this is what the world would become when I'm this age, and I would have accepted it. I would have thought they were out of their effing mind.
Aye. I mean, I think it's just a testament to how little infrastructure we had in regards to support. You know, society's an idea, it's a concept, and it's not going to fit everybody. Plus, and coupled with that, we've got unnatural situations of close habitation, going to schools, going to these environments. So there's all sorts of adverse emotional and psychological conflicts. So rather than establishing an open source of communication for people to express themselves and work through these, you know, adverse reactions they're having, you know, they go the opposite direction and start kowtowing to these mental delusions based on the unnatural environment that we're born into, and encouraging that sort of adverse mental reaction. I mean, I say that about, you know, like, you say the gay community, transgenders and whatever else. you don't have to go the whole hog of pushing that onto children in schools and whatever. All you have to say is acknowledge and say, listen, life's confusing, life can get emotional, right? That's fine. So what we should be aware of is that children experience these sort of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to establish an open line of communication where a child can have, open communication and information related to how they're feeling and experiencing, and then they can make their own decisions from there, rather than pushing it as an agenda. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I can't even tell you what age it was when I first heard the word transsexual. I know I never heard it in my youth.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever heard it till I was maybe in my 20s.
Yeah. I've never had a problem with them. I think, because these types of people have experienced the bully type mindset in their life, it's created this schism of having to stamp their authority on the world. The reality is that it's a very small minority. I've never gave a fuck about whether a man wants to dress as a woman, whether a man wants to go with a man or a woman wants to go. It's never been my walk. It's none of my business. Why is it being made relevant to me? That's
Exactly.
It seems like they're trying to make it relevant based on a minority of small-minded, judgmental, types of people. So why are we all having to suffer because of some minority? It's always the case, isn't it? Regardless of what it is, it's like, oh well, this breed of dog has bitten somebody, so now that whole species of dogs has to be controlled and has to be this, that and the other. Why do we allow this minority of negativity to affect and generalise over the whole? But we don't do it in the opposite direction. We don't, elevate the good aspects and the good traits of human beings. You look at how the bias of the news. News is just all about the negatives and these wee isolated pods of negativity and badness. But they never come on and elevate the 95% of the rest of the behaviour and stuff that goes on. So it seems to me to be the case with this sexuality thing. I don't know how we ended up here. I digressed, but hey ho.
It seems like it's a plan, though.
Well, it turns into a political thing, doesn't it, anyway? I mean, the people who are actually like that, they want nothing to do with it. They just want to be left alone, I think, probably. The point of turning... Like, I was watching... I mean, our own Prime Minister did this, but I was watching something recently with some senator in America, and he was talking about, this whole what is a woman thing, and it just... I couldn't help but think the audience that are watching, who this guy, he's sort of knocking it out the park, if you will, and we're all going, yeah, you see, there is only a man and a woman, and it's like, what the fuck are we even arguing about?
Exactly.
It's the stupidest shit ever. It makes no sense whatsoever, but yet, could it be that it keeps us from talking about something that actually matters?
I think it keeps us in the subjective realms again. It's that separation for me. Separate the objective and the subjective, right? Okay, objectively, what do we have? We have male and female that reproduce. So a man's a man, a woman's a woman. Now, subjectively, there may be entities that want to identify as this, but the conversation's never laid out with that separation. It's just, oh, what is a woman? Well, they don't ever sit there and say, well, let's categorise it, let's talk from the objective, and now let's talk from the subjective. Objectively, there's physicality, there's definition, there's chromosomes, whatever you want to say that makes a man. A man is this, a woman's this, right? That's the physical objective part out the road, right? We've established that, that's the facts. Now, let's go to this subjective realm where you, as born a biological male, identify as a female. Well, that's fine, that's your business. Why does it need to be my business? To me, it's so simple. So I think that the agenda is to keep us perpetually in the realms of subjectivity, because if you can make subjectivity relevant, then that's going to produce divide between people, because people are now, vying that their subjectivity is superior to another subjectivity. When the reality is that there's an objective arena An objectivity and your subjectivity should remain private at all times. Should never be thrust upon anybody in the objective arena. You know? So I think that's the agenda. Because people are not educated properly. They don't know the trivium, they don't know grammar, logic, rhetoric. They do not know how to separate the workings of their own mind and identify their subjectivity and the objective aspects. So it's just a melting pot where nowadays we live in a world where it's opinions and my beliefs and my identity and this, that and the other. And that's the agenda for me. That's the divide and rule at the subjective level. That's why, you know, why is politics involved in subjectivity? Why is anything out there in the objective arena, media, orientated around subjectivity? It's just to perpetuate that divide.
It's getting worse all the time, Del, because nobody looks internally, they look at their cell phones.
Yep.
Is the overall agenda to just keep us from ever figuring out who or what we really are? Because everything is here to distract us from figuring that out, in my opinion.
Exactly. And I've had that, you know, coming at me with people, oh, there's much more important stuff in the shape of the earth. And I'm like, well, that's an objective question about me asking questions where I actually am. So what's more relevant than that? Oh, let me see, some subjective nonsense, politics, ideas of society, concepts of how we should live. These are all subjective, so how do they take prominence over an objective inquiry? You know? But you see, even in this truth community, that's what they push. Oh, there's much more prevalent questions than the shape of the earth. Oh, how? Name me one.
Don't have an answer.
That's because anything else you put your attention to is going to be in the realms of the subjective.
I hear you.
Well, politics are no discussing how we can, you know, make each other's lives better, how we can, you know, eradicate homelessness and you know, child poverty and all these things. They're not talking about stuff like that. They're too busy debating in Parliament what's a man and what's a fucking woman.
I could name several topics I think they're way more important, but half of them they're not YouTube friendly. But I'd certainly point people towards Dr. Sam Bailey on the V stuff. Yeah. You should definitely check her videos out. She's excellent.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, she's a New Zealand doctor, and her husband is a doctor also. So they're very they're showing a lot of integrity, and obviously they're being attacked a lot. And she's made over 200 videos on that subject on germ theory.
Could you say the name one more time, please?
Dr. Sam Bailey. Bailey spelled with an E.
See, that's this kind of thing, you know. So there, in that regard, that topic, there's an objective aspect to that topic because there's physicality of cause and effect. But you know, in regards to people receiving these types of things, is because they live within a society, and that society is a subjective ideology. So they're now being affected on a physical sense by subjective ideology. You know, does the Amazonian tribe get affected by that sort of discussion? Are they affected by, you know, pharmaceutical companies trying to push these sorts of things? No, because they're no part of that idea, that society that we live in. So you know, having to deal with aspects of organisations pushing, you know, narratives of sticking jabs into people is encompassed and couched in a subjective ideology of society. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, that's one of the reasons I came onto Discord. I was genuinely curious about all the flat earth stuff, and I wanted to learn a bit more about science and that kind of stuff. But it was around that time where they put everyone under house arrest. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Where are all the men to speak out about this? And all I saw was women basically speaking up. So that's one of the reasons I came onto Discord. So I was like, this is insane now, and not the way the kids say it in a good way. This is a nightmare. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons I came here onto Discord. But just before I jump off, Del, I watched a lot of your outdoor activity. You know, I love all that. I love all that stuff, and
Yeah.
I started watching you in I don't know, say 2018 and stuff like that. So then I watched all your early content, but I remember the thought came to me that probably, you know, that earlier stuff maybe from 2015 or whatever, or you know, it's probably not so good. But no, you're exactly the same. It's brilliant. You're exactly the same. And you, all right, you ain't got this motion stuff, that's not there, but the reasoning is still there. And it's like, because I thought your arguments wouldn't be honed as well, and it's probably not as good content, but it is. It's still good content.
Aye, well, that's the thing, you know, I've been that subjective, you know, incredulous moron, and I get sick of myself way back, you know, late 90s, you know, getting into the 2000s, where I was fed up chasing my tail of my own beliefs, biases, wishes, you know, assumptions, and I just formulated this process of, look, I need to eradicate all this stuff and bring it to a point of experience. If I cannot experience it, why am I having any relevance to it whatsoever? And from there it just refines, you know, you seem to be on the right path then. And you know it in yourself because you're no longer deluding yourself and you know, acting ignorantly. So as I've said to people, I've walked this path on YouTube and it's been consistent and I've not altered one bit. You know, it's just you learn things. You know, I've made mistakes in the past where I used to say things like, well, how does the way objects fall, you know, tell us anything about the shape of the earth and yada yada, and I had to come forward and say, look, I was wrong in that regard, because once you understand the vector aspect, then you can comprehend what it can't be. You know, so there is an avenue to you know, clearer understanding in that regard, and that just comes down to being intellectually honest. If you're not in it for ego reasons, to raise your stature and put yourself across as some sort of superior intellect and all that nonsense, then you will, it's very easy to be honest and correct yourself in things that you've said or believed, you know.
Yeah, well, before, I don't know, it never ceases to amaze me how much I realise with, dare I say, a higher state of awareness, how much of a hypocrite I still am. Like I chastise people for shit I do all the time, and anyway, I'm trying my best out here, folks. I'm trying my best.
We all are, mate. None of us are fucking on that pure path, are we? We're all trying, and you know, I think the best thing to be on is just that total, pure, raw honesty with yourself. As long as you can maintain that, you know, you may make a mistake, and in a week's time, a year's time, you reflect and you realise your own shortcomings, and you know, you learn and you move on. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of, and we're all in the same boat. None of us is better than any of the rest of us. You know.
Yeah, I think as long as we're in this meat suit, we're subject to sin.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And talking about that back the other day about this realm and, you know, what it means. The meat suit for me seems to have its own intelligence, or is controlled by some other intelligence, because, you know, it learns itself like an artificial intelligence. It regulates food processing, it regulates temperature, it regulates heartbeat, it regulates, you know, repairs. It does all this stuff without my conscious participation. So, you know, philosophically to me, I would suggest, you know, my position is I'm some sort of dualist. There seems to be a merging of two realms here. You know, me, all I do is observe what goes on, and that's what I identify as the me, the I, the self. The rest of it is just seems to be happening, and I'm just watching and observe it happening. As I say, you know, who's consciously controlling their heart rate right now, or their breathing, or their body temperature? Are you consciously processing the food in your stomach, the digestive system? Are you doing any of that stuff? No, you're not. So what's controlling it?
Is it part of the sub-programming?
Well, what's the sub-programming? That's to suggest then that the body is doing stuff of its own accord. I mean, it has to be coming from somewhere else again. What's actually controlling it? You know, look at hormones. I spoke about that, you know, the other day. I look back at my life and I have kids. You know, I was a youngster with unhinged behaviours and I was driven by hormones. But at the time, I just think I'm participating consciously. It's my choice. But in hindsight now, when I look back at it, I go, no, that was the hormones driving me. So something else is in control of certain aspects of your experience that you think you have been participating in, when the reality is you were just a passenger, you know. So whether that lends any, you know, clarity to the bigger picture of what is actually going on here, I don't know. But it seems clear to me that there's a separation of what I call me, myself, my consciousness, my awareness, and, you know, the physical world, including my body, because I never created it. I don't regulate it. I don't tell it what to do. It's been ran by something else.
Yeah, I question free will all the time. I have that talk with people, and it's one of those that I have to put down for a while, because it's a bit of a head fuck, to be honest. I actually don't think we have free will at all.
Well,
I really don't.
It's funny because I'm kind of like that myself, you know. The
older I get, I feel like I'm on a tram.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in the lines, and if I get off that, if I try and move off it, like the natural law or whatever you want to call it, pushes me back into it.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, mate. Exactly, man. Exactly. You know, even in a dream state, you know, in a dream state, I have experiences that I never conjured up, that I'm not responsible for. But the commonality between my dream state and my waking state is that I was there, I observed them, I experienced them, you know? So what am I really then? All I am is pure consciousness, that ability to have an experience. The rest of it is not really me. It's just as you say, it's like you're a passenger in it.
Yeah, and that's why often when I get into these God discussions, and it's quite exercising futility, as you can imagine. And I usually just say I don't know, because that's the best answer I can give.
Yeah.
But it's the most honest, at least. But I liken it to if you look at your hand and you say, look, I want to move my finger, and you say, look, move your finger. You don't move. You can just leave your finger there.
Yeah.
But when you do move your finger, it just happens. Now, we can go into the mechanics of actually, you know, what's happening, but truthfully, why, you know, what? It's just a happening, isn't it? And that's what I liken to God. It's just a happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to address a quick comment. Chelster, you know, I'm going to read Chelster's comment. We came here into FE at different times. We were all at different stages, ramming it down an FE's throat is never going to work. I'm sick of the bickering, it's old. I'm the same. Chelster, I never came into this with a will to have bickerings and whatever else. Again, the motion aspect, I never presented this as an attack on anybody. It was never presented as an attack. The bickering is happening because of the reaction to what's being presented. Now, I'm still here and I'm still open, I'm still the same guy. I've presented what I've presented. People are now attacking me left, right and centre, misrepresenting me, having discussions about it, you know, talking past it, misrepresenting it. That's the thing that's causing the bickering. I'm still here, the same guy, open and real. You know, I presented what I presented. The demonstrations are the demonstrations. If people want to have a discussion about that, then come and have the discussion about it. There's no need for bickering. The bickering and the divisions happen because of the emotional reaction that people have had to that information. That's their problem. So when people are coming here and there's people in this comment section asking questions, you can look at that as, you know, like people are being antagonistic or demeaning, and maybe there is some people that will say, oh, you're retarded and yada yada, but that's not an attack on their person. It's in regards to the content they're providing, right? And I get frustrated with that. I'm just a human the same as the rest of them. But as I've proven throughout time, as we're proving right now, if people can be mature and can articulate concisely and have reasoning and logic behind the statements that they make, and they're able to discuss them objectively, there's never going to be that bickering. But the Flair community has displayed an absolute, explosion of emotional reaction to this. They're the ones that went away calling us names. They're the ones that went away causing a divide. No here. Go back and look at the chronology. Did I present this with an attack? No, I didn't. I presented it just purely as it is. And then the response from that was attack, attack, attack. And again, just being human, fallible, I react sometimes to that. Okay? And I take responsibility for it. But I'm still, even if I've said, oh, he's a retard, this, that, and the other, if that person then comes and engages with me, with manners and respect, then they get the very same in return. So, unfortunately, you're always going to have that because there's too many people operating from the subjective, and that's where the problem comes. They're not really capable of having an objective discussion. They don't want their reasoning torn apart on the table because their ego is trying to defend it because they feel as if they're going to be less of a person. So it's their problem.
What I witnessed, you're not lying, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys have spoken about that, about how maybe you struggled in the beginning. Did I present it in an attack mode? No.
No, it just challenged me.
Exactly. But people think that internal challenge they identify as me attacking them.
No, I never looked at it that way. Not at all.
No.
I get excited about these new ideas that come out, and I really did. And this one got me good. Sure.
Good.
I don't see why anybody would view it as an attack. You just put out information that somehow you came to.
Yes, but it's just exactly what you say. It's because you say it, it challenged you internally based on your perceptions, your assumptions, your beliefs maybe. So these people, this flat earth community has experienced that very same thing. Now, rather than turning their attention inwards, they've projected it outwards and attacked me because they feel as if they're being attacked by me.
Yeah, but how can you do that without taking it inwards first and going through it to determine whether it's something that you should attack somebody over?
Exactly.
It's just like an immediate reaction on their part without any forethought.
Yes, it's an impulsive,
An impulse.
Aye. Yep.
It's like you said, mate. You're passionate about it. It's a sensitive subject. So you're not attacking anyone. It's you are passionate about it, and we can generally see that.
Yep. And I've had to be subject of those attacks. I'm the one that's had to bear the brunt of that, bringing it forward and standing up. So it becomes difficult to maintain your composure indefinitely in that regard. And I get, triggered by people sea-lining and asking the same questions over and over and over again, although you've addressed it and clearly shown it. And it is difficult, as I say. I'm just a human. I have a tolerance level, So.
Yeah, it's just from our side of the fence, we're got the patience of a saint, and then from their side of the fence, you're the, like you said, the big mean man in the shed,
Because they're attacking me. They're coming and antagonising me based on their own emotional reaction and trying to get me to take responsibility for that, which I can't take responsibility for anybody's internal, reactions. That's not my responsibility at all,
Okay.
Hungry?
I'll just wait you now.
Yeah, I think that's the right attitude. The shamanarchist. Don't get fixed on an idea and be willing to emotionally invest too heavily on previously held flawed ideas based upon false information consumed. Just go over yourselves and stay open. That's it. And, you know, Mr. Cheswick, you know, you constantly go around, I see you in other chats, slating stuff like you do comprehend, and then you come here sea-lining, acting like you don't comprehend. I mean, I don't know what questions you feel are not clear. You know, I think the position's been made very, very clear. Maybe it's just your inability to comprehend. And if it is your inability to comprehend, then you cannot on the other cheek start, you know, degrading it and berating it, because you're admitting that you don't have the ability to comprehend it in the first place. You know? So it's people like that that grate on me. You know, these are flat earthers. These are people who should be smarter than that. You know, if I propose something and then I articulate it and I show you and I back it with practicality, if you want to go against that, it's your burden and responsibility to now provide the practical references to support your position. It's as simple as that. You don't need to accept the answers you've given me, that's fine. I don't know why you're here. Nobody's telling you that you don't have the right to not accept. That's fine. I don't accept many things in the world. I don't go and bother myself with them. It's as simple as that. Again, you know, people like this have openly admitted they don't comprehend. And I open a platform and I say, look, listen, you can come and have a discussion with me. I'll have a private discussion with you. I'll lend myself to that. I'll put myself out there in that regard. But they don't. And then they run about other chats, misrepresenting you, misrepresenting your position, muddying the waters, causing more confusion. But yet you're going to sit and point the finger at me. It's bizarre. Paul, I'm good, mate. I hope you're well yourself. Cheers for asking, mate. Well, you've got a position of your facts, Mr. Cheswick, and, you know, that's fine. That's people's commitment and certainty on the physics and what the physics are demonstrating to them. So they're committed to the real practical world, right? That's up to them. Same as I'm committed to the practical references. The practical references are definite. There's no way to break them. So I'm committed, I accept reality. You know, that conviction's there for me. So what's the problem? If you want to deny that it's a fact that when there's a force present and force acts on matter that we get displacement, if you want to deny that when force is acting on matter that we get a pressure gradient and an orientation and a buoyancy and density gradient, then you can deny those facts all you like. Or you can not comprehend them all you like. It's of no bearing to me. But the minute that you start going against it, then I have to ask the questions, okay, what justifies your position? What justifies you having a position of a stationary Earth with an acceleration of gas, liquids and solids without a displacement in a particular vector? Because that's a claim that defies practical physics. So people should be allowed to ask questions on absurd claims that are non-demonstrable. But you don't have an answer. You're continually pointing the finger outward that it's us that's got the problem. Maybe you need to have a wee look at yourself. So you deny it, right? Well, it's not a theory. If acceleration's at play, right, we get a gradient. When acceleration's at play, air moves in the direction of that force. So when we've got a bottle standing in earth and an air bubble rising, it's my position that the force is acting that direction, pushing the air bubble in that direction, because I can recreate that and demonstrate it in any other vector you like. Right? So it's not a theory. That's a fact. Whatever direction the force is going in, it will correlate with the air and the density gradient. Right? Now, on the other hand, you've got a stationary Earth that wants a downwards acceleration with the air at the top and the water at the bottom, so that it doesn't invert the way that it does in every other example. If I accelerate it downwards, the air goes that way and the water's at the top. Now we've got a stationary Earth that claims downwards acceleration with that reversed, which flies in the face of all practical physics. So you can have a problem with that all you like. That's what I'm saying. It's a fact, whether you like it or no. It's not my problem. It's not the people in this chat's problem. It's your problem. I mean, how much clearer can that be made? There's people right here, right now. Tell me if I'm wrong. Butt in, tell me where I'm wrong.
Can't argue with that, Joel.
Well, some people want in Ellis, but have no reasoning, no reasoning to offer up in that regard. If you make a statement and I say no, that statement's wrong, and I then lay out my reasoning and my reasoning's shown with practical reference, then there's no issue there, Nellis, is there? But if I just say you're wrong and I don't have any reasoning or practical reference, then whose problem is it?
Yeah, the one without the substance.
Exactly. And that's simply what I'm saying, and the people in this.
Practical experience.
Aye. And that's what I'm saying, and that's what the people in this chat are saying, but people are acting the victim. If you don't like the conclusion, then that's fine. My conclusion's backed by the practical world. If your conclusion's contrary to that, then justify it. That's all we're asking for. Justify your position.
Yeah, and then somebody who would be intellectually honest would then realise their error and they can correct it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that seems to be pretty rare.
Mm-hmm. So even in a situation like that, right, so he's saying, okay, fair enough, I accept that I don't accept your rising earth claims, but that doesn't mean I still don't appreciate your work as I do. Okay, if you don't accept it, all people are asking for is, why do you not accept it? What is your position? Your position's a stationary earth with, some non-demonstrable physics attached to it. So I don't accept fantasy worlds. So if that's the case, fine. I don't accept your fantasy world. You don't accept practical physics. That's fine. Move on. You don't need to run about in other chat boxes, demeaning people and misrepresenting and muddying the waters. Maybe I need to make a little short video because again I'm seeing, dielectric, static dielectric, I don't know if people are actually clear on what they're claiming. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Maybe I've just, walked too far down the path and have lost sight of the simplicity parts that maybe people are overlooking in regards to their own worldview. Who knows? Static dielectric electricities, magnetism, all this stuff, it's simple. That would be a claim of uniform acceleration of various states of matter with an opposing, buoyant effect going against the direction of your force. So if you believe that, that's up to you to demonstrate and justify that claim. Until then, it has no place for me. That seems to be the case, Marky. Aye, but Dale, the quickest way to get a dopamine hit online is to go about and talk shite about others and abuse them. And it seems to be the case, mate. Aye, Rachie, no worries, send me an email. I don't know if there's any point right now because I'm getting too hungry. and I'm considering getting off shortly, and I can envision that conversation might go on a wee bit, and it's probably better, you know, that it would be in private, you know, because then there's no any external influence. So if you want a chat, anytime, just send me an email, I'll have a chat.
Well, you ever get the feeling you were placed in the wrong reality?
I used to say that I feel as if I've been missold a holiday destination. You know, like you look at a holiday catalogue and you see this fucking, you know, utopic land, and you get there and it's a fucking building site full of muck and fucking dirt and rats.
But I've been saying that for many years, that I just don't belong here. I just don't feel like I belong here.
Same. Same, mate. You know, I think that's where people
But
get.
I gotta take off. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's where people get these kind of narratives of a soul trap and these types of depictions, you know, because of that feeling, you know.
I think we're meant to know what it is, why we're here, whatever it is.
Aye. As I say, that question of why, it's always couched in some, you know, transcendent meaning, you know, like there has to be some other meaning other than just the experience of it. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Do you go along with we're spiritual beings within a meat suit here, having an experience?
I would lend myself to a sort of dualism, definitely. That's why I was making the point earlier about, you know, the body having its processes and me just being an observer of that, you know.
That's where I thought you were going when you were saying that.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it, you know. I use terms like philosophy terms like a dualist, you know, where there's a merging of the flesh and the spirit, you know.
And at times internally, I have to believe that's true. Because it seems like my spirit wants to get out of this meat suit sometimes. I mean, physically feels that way sometimes.
I used to play with the notion that I used to get the terror of sleep paralysis, and I was very easy and constant with me that I would be outside of my body as a child and sleep, and I theorised later in life that was something scaring me from doing that and continuing that kind of activity, you know, with the whole sleep paralysis thing. But
you experienced that, huh? Sleep paralysis?
Sleep paralysis and much variations of it, you know, out of body, sleepwalking type scenarios, you know, like, you know, I've got very distinct awareness and memory of the experience of being outside of my body, watching my physical body, you know, open the front door, go out into the tenement building, go up the stairs onto the road and start walking down the road and being dragged like about 1.5 to 2 meters behind my body. Just watching, you know, I didn't have a form, all I was aware, an awareness. I wouldn't even say I had eyes, it didn't even seem like I had a physical form, but I could watch my physical body doing what it was doing, you know.
What age was this, Bill?
That was from, my earliest memories of that were from about 3 years old, and that continued right up. You know, if I stopped smoking the weed, I would still probably have experiences like that, to be honest with you. You know? I think the weed seems to...
I know I used to sleepwalk a lot as a child.
Yeah.
My mother used to tell me some crazy stories.
Same. But I think...
I never had that experience of seeing myself outside, I mean, being outside my body and visually seeing myself. I don't think I've ever experienced that.
Aye. And having it, you know, a different perspective, like becoming aware that you're aware of watching your physicality, and it's just weirdness like that. But as I say, the only commonality with all these experiences is that I was aware of them and I can remember them, which is bizarre in itself, you know.
That's wild for sure.
But I'm not the only one. It's known through history, these sorts of experiences. You know, I've heard people talking about the silver cord and how you're tethered to the body and yada yada, and you know, these sorts of things. And I could spin a narrative in that regard based on my experiences, just like I said, you know, of being separate from my body, run about 1.5 meters to 2 meters behind, up, just kind of up and behind, like up at a height above my body, viewing it from that angle and just following it about while it physically moves, and you know, and you would get that testimony that, you know, that my mother or whoever would say, no, you went out the door and you were walking up the path and walking down the main street. You know, that was physically happening, but my memory of that was being outside of it, watching it happen.
That is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
That is really fascinating.
Yeah. And as a kid, it's normal. If
Yeah, you
anybody's-
probably thought nothing of it, right?
No, it didn't seem strange. You didn't have fear. There wasn't anxiety. There wasn't worry. Or, oh, what's this that's happening? It just seemed to be just, this is just normal. This is just the way it is.
Until the doctor goes and, you know, says, oh, now you're sick.
Aye, or they label it exactly. Then you start, you know, conceptualising it in that regard. But as it's happening to you as a kid, it's just normal, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're just experiencing it without a judgment of it.
Aye, exactly. It's the society and the elders around you that start placing labels and, you know, trying to pigeonhole it. Where I never seek to pigeonhole it. You know, when I got to like the terror aspects, I used to be scared of falling asleep, you know, in case that would happen. But
Wow.
but that was about the only time. But the outer body stuff never fazed me at all. You know, I just was terrified that I would get the paralysis part. And for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's like you're awake in your body, but your body's, so if you were standing looking at my body, my eyes would be shut. But I would be awake in my body and I would know you were there. And what would happen was I would just, this, the way I would describe it is an overwhelming sense of dread, evil, fear would just come over you. And it would be this scramble, this desperation to try and wake up.
I experienced that once, still. It's probably maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out. It felt like my eyes were open. There was nobody else in the room.
Yeah.
The only thing I could move was my eyes. My entire body was frozen.
Yeah.
I was wondering, am I being abducted? Or not?
But I would be looking at you and thinking I'm screaming at you, but you would maybe look at me and see that I'm mumbling, or just kind of grunting. But I would be internal screaming for you to try and wake me up.
Yeah.
You know? But I would be aware that you were there, although my eyes were shut. Yeah. But I mean, these are just experiences that we can convey to each other. You know, I can never show anybody or prove anybody that. You know, only people who have had those experiences can you share. You know, that way.
When I was in the service, when I was about 20 years old, I was home on leave. I had a dream, and the next day, the dream came true exactly as I dreamt it.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go into the dream because I'm kind of embarrassed about it, but it was exactly. The only thing that it ended different because I was aware this was happening, so it didn't end the way it ended in the dream.
Yeah.
I was able to change the ending.
Exactly. And I've analysed it through my life and thought, you know, was there traumas there? Was there what was going on around about me? You know, can that be induced through these sorts of things? You know, like the fear aspect maybe, but the sleepwalking and being outside your body, you know, as I say, there was no emotion in any of that. The only emotion that was prevalent was the paralysis part. You know? So again, you know, I've not analysed it clearly or properly enough to see what was going on in my life at that time. I know I was, you know, there was shit going on, so maybe, you know, there's a factor to play in that regard. But before that, as I say, from a younger age and you're not operating from any awareness of what's going on really. You know, I've got memory of those experiences. So
Could that only mean that your spirit isn't completely embedded in your meat suit yet?
that's
Able to.
that's what I theorised, that there was some other entity maybe there that was trying to stop me from doing that. I don't know. You know, you just play with these notions, but aye, maybe it wasn't a proper emergence, or maybe you know, it's fear that causes that solidifying of you in the meat suit. And if you didn't experience much trauma and fear in your life, you would probably just experience that your whole living life. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I would like to maybe
I don't
interview.
really down on it, but I vaguely remember something about somebody saying it could be diet related in some people.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but that was a long time ago since I found it, so I can't be sure, but I vaguely remember.
There would have to be extensive tests done in that regard. You know, I'm open to any possibility. Yeah. But I would love to maybe, you know, have the opportunity to interview, you know, tribes that live away from our cultures, you know, have a look at their lives, their lifestyle. Have they been subject to trauma? What was that trauma? Do they have these experiences? You know, yada yada. I know that people like Rupert Sheldrake and guys like that were kind of studying a bit of the metaphysical, psychological aspects, but I don't know if they went into these realms and interviewed tribes and whatever else. But me personally, just for my own, I would like to pursue that kind of avenue, you know.
That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because I've heard a lot of stories about, you know, near-death experiences being related to cultural upbringing and cultural influence, although there is cases where there's similarities without the same sort of process of culture going on. So it's a real mystery, isn't it? You know, the mind and the metaphysical aspects of our being. But that's why for me I kind of solidified myself in the objective inquiry, because I spent too many years in the subjective and I never seemed to get anywhere. The only place I got was clarity of my own being, you know, understanding who I am, you know, how I think and what my triggers are and how I let things influence me. But I never get any closer to any sort of bigger picture, which is why I abandoned it, you know, and went in the pursuit of the objective. Because maybe if we can, you know, explore the objective realm, we may get closer to, you know, those bigger questions of, you know, why we're here, how we came to be here, you know.
I'm curious as to how many senses did you have in your dreams, Del? Because when I have dreams where I know I'm dreaming, I can't smell or taste, but I can hear and see and feel.
Yeah. No,
Makes sense.
I've definitely had experiences of smell and taste in dream.
That's pretty strange. Yeah, I've tried to smell. I've tried to eat things in my dream, and I couldn't smell it or taste it. So yeah, it's very strange.
Mm-hmm. There was a great little Channel 4 movie called Waking Life that was done, I don't know, about 15, maybe 20 years ago. Really, really good. I highly recommend it for anybody. I think you can get it on YouTube. It's called Waking Life. It's like a animated type thing, but it talks to all these different, you know, possibilities and propositions. And there was one in that about lucid dreaming and how, you know, you can tell you're lucid dreaming by trying to switch the lights on and off. If you're lucid dreaming and you become aware that you may be dreaming, go and try and turn the light switch on or off and see what happens. You know, there's loads of different, you know, thoughts and investigations in that regard. But Waking Life, I think, you know, a lot of you here would probably really, really enjoy.
Yeah, I've seen that one. I saw that one maybe half a year ago. Yeah, it was pretty crazy, yeah. And the art as well, the cartoon sort of art is pretty good.
Yeah, it was well done, wasn't it? It's quite a progressive, you know, it's not like a static story. It's, you know, it kind of meanders from different philosophical positions from one observer, you know, having different chats to different people and their perspectives and their views. Really, really good.
Your example about the light makes me reminds me of something. sometimes I go to sleep with headphones on and music on. Sometimes I forget to put on the sleep timer, so the music will play the whole night long. And then as I'm slowly waking up, I can, in my dream, or in my, whatever it's called, in this half awake state, I can hear the music, and in that awareness, I think of taking off the headset, but it's not actually physically happening.
Yeah.
So the music keeps playing and playing and playing, and I'm going nuts in my half dream state, because I'm like, why the fuck is the music still playing? And then I slowly wake up, and then I realized, like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why I was still hearing music, because it was still actually playing.
Yeah. Even in that, as I highlighted earlier, I think you were there, Nellis, I don't know if anybody else was there when we were talking about dreams. The very fact that I can be in a darkened room with eye patches on, no light penetrating, and if I fall asleep and I have a dream, there's light in that dream. So where does where does that light come from? Yeah.
Exactly, Del. I read a book called Incognito: The Secret Lives of the Brain many years ago, and it formulated that exact same question. How do you close your eyes or have your eyes closed and still see light?
Yeah. Yep.
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
So is everything that we are experiencing, is it put together as a picture inside our brains, whatever we want to call that thing up there? And that's what we're actually experiencing?
Well,
we're not actually experiencing what we think we're experiencing, looking out?
Well, I've put that to materialists before who have came with that sort of argument, and I'm saying, well, basically you're saying to me that my brain, the meat of my brain has the ability to produce light. I mean, is that really what they're going to claim? If they say, oh, it's memory and it's the brain constructing, so the brain can construct light. I mean, very good.
It was a great book, Bill. If you ever want to read a good book, great book. David Eagleman, Incognito, it's called.
I'll need to give that a wee look, mate. Sounds interesting.
I read that book 2 or 3 times. It was that interesting for me. It gives you a lot of tests that you could do to show you exactly how your brain fools itself to do certain things or see certain things. You know, there's people that have injured brains that actually see things in segments where they'll witness something, then they'll witness it again like a few seconds later. It'll take that long for their brain to develop the image because they had some type of injury or trauma. It was a great book, man. Great book. I recommend it highly.
Ah, nice one. I'll need to check that out. I take it there'll be a PDF somewhere online, maybe, of that. I'll have a wee look for it. See, Douglas is saying there are many. Sorry, I'm just reading that comment. There are many dimensions, things besides you now that would scare you. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And I've postulated that before about, you know, the Earth and you know, whether we're in some, you know, finite containment. Maybe the discoveries were made and it's, you know, a terrifying prospect of what's going on outside of us, and, you know, at some point a decision was made not to disclose that. You know, I mean, I can foresee that being a possibility. Just as we were talking about.
Did you hear the story about that gentleman that invented those night vision glasses with the red view or something like that, and supposedly the pilots and the gunners were seeing demons flying around in the sky and they were shooting at them and they had to do away with that type of night vision? Did you ever hear that?
No, I've never heard that before, no.
I can't say if any of that is true or not. I know people have brought up that story.
As I say, we're walking in the dark, aren't we? You know, and trying to make sense of what's going on. As I say, I can only listen to claims and go by my experience, and I don't admit, you know, any aspect of the metaphysical and the possibilities of what's going on there because I don't know enough. I'm looped into this point of experience and trying to rationalise and make sense from this point of view. And as I say, I gave up with those kind of musings because they're fruitless, and up to a point there's fruit to bear, right enough, but it gets to a point where there's nothing more for me to be gained, and you know, objective pursuit is now my line of inquiry, although I still love, you know, clearly as we're talking right now, to engage with these sort of musings. It's good to get to know people in that regard and share experiences, you know, that we can relate to in regards to each other that way. So I think there's a huge benefit to it. But in regards to trying to find objectively what's going on in that regard, I think we're pissing in the wind. we don't have the apparatus to know for sure.
I hear you. But it's always strange that we, at some point during our objective musings, we lead back into the subjective somehow. It always comes up somehow. It always comes back into our conversation.
Because I think it's all related. You know, we're living in a world where we've got religions and philosophies trying to tell and dictate what's what, and you know, and again, for me, my process was always to listen to all these perspectives and try and reflect on them, see if I can find a contradiction and yada yada. So it's always going to come back to that, isn't it? Because it's the ultimate questions. That's why we're all here, I think. You know, what is this fucking experience we're having? What the fuck is going on here? You know?
Yeah, and through working together, we might be able to get to that answer, or at least closer to it. And I have a feeling that by making us all fight over subjective things, we never get to that point.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the whole point, right?
Yes.
To prevent us from finding out what the fuck's going on here.
I agree.
I think that's clear. That agenda is very clear, Nellis. I don't know if you were here when I said exactly what you've just said, you know, a while ago. This seems to me to be the case. You know, the subjective world's too murky, it's too ambiguous, there's no definiteness in there, you know. So if they can keep us, you know, trying to vie for what aspect of the subjective is more superior than another, then you're going to have perpetual division and perpetual war amongst people. If people can put their subjectivity to the back burner and realise it's their own privacy, and have respect in that regard, then we would probably progress as a society in regards to our communications and you know, identifying what's relevant and what's really important, you know. But as long as we're at each other's throats about race, you know, religion, sexuality, you know, football team, fucking favourite colour, I mean, human beings are quick to grab any stick, you know, and defend their subjectivity.
Yeah.
And
that's, as you were saying, if there are people in the past who have maybe done some discoveries that were very troubling, that now they're like, oh, we better do something to prevent, you know, the common folk from finding this out. So let's start, you know, create this game that everybody just keeps themselves busy with,
right,
and they'll never find out.
Exactly. If the farm animals are you know, eyeing up the fence and trying to find a way out, then you need to keep them occupied, you know?
Yeah. And even if that means making it a little bit more comfortable for them.
Mm-hmm. Which is what I think is going on right now. I think we're being brought to this point of absurdity, where the corruption's palpable, it's in your face, it's, you know, undeniable. And everybody's at each other's throats. There's a threat of world war, threat of nuclear war, threat of this, threat of that. You know, if you've got a better system ready to offer up for people based on...
It's going to be so easy.
Yeah, exactly. If it's going to be to the benefit of people so that they can have their convenience and their comfort back, then they're going to run and grab it with both hands and cherish it.
Yep.
Oh my God, that scares the fuck out of me.
Mm. That's why, you know, when people talk about like what's coming's a dystopian future, you know, I don't buy into that shit. I think that's the threat. That's to get people to believe that's what's on the precipice, You know, so that
But they want a self-fulfilling prophecy, right, Doug?
aye, exactly, mate. That also, you know, there's that too, of course. You know, well, I think it ends up in the same place. We're going to have a new system, a new order. You know.
Yeah, well, the current one is fucked either way.
Yep. And they know that. I think you know it. That's why people could predict certain things in the past, because if you understand the game, then that game can only go one direction, which is you're going to end up with a few with all the wealth and a disparity between that and the rest. Then that's predictable, because that's the game from the off. You know. So
yeah, just take the financial system as an example. Anybody who's been digging into that, how it works, you would know that eventually you're going to have inflation.
aye, and monopolising, centralising of power, centralising of wealth, centralising of business, centralising of societies, communities. You know, that's the structure of the game. So it's predictable, and if you create a new system based on those same principles, then you can predict from our age, in 100 years' time, people would read our books and say, oh, they were fucking prophets. No, once you get the game from the off, you know the structure of the game, it's predictable what's going to happen.
Yeah, and if you can reason, and use logic, that'll help. Predicting it.
Aye.
How does the game end?
With a new system. Or apparent redistribution of the wealth and a different focus. You know?
It would have to be a system where one body can't accumulate a majority of the wealth to control the rest of society.
Yep.
That there would have to be a limiter in that system somehow that
It
prevent
could
that
still
from
be
happening.
there, but it might be so well distributed. I mean,
Nobody could take advantage.
Well,
No, I mean to say that. Okay, for example, if you would still have this concept of an elite, right, or whatever you want to call them, these very wealthy people, they could still have their thing, but away from everybody else. So you put all these folks in 15-minute cities, dump them all together, have them, you know, let them have their TV and their food, and maybe give them a little bit more than we have now, but they still have the biggest. You know, they hog all the land. But if you bunch everybody up in a small space, well, they can just take that land and everybody will be in the city. So
it has to come back to individual trade for me personally. If you're going to devise some sort of structure that would, you know, maybe well, I'm not saying for definite, but you know, look at things like they brought the Monopolies Commission in, and that was designed to apparently stop that sort of, you know, centralising, where, you know, I can buy up all the local bakeries because, you know, I'm a corporation and I can, you know, produce at a bigger rate and mass produce at a cheaper, you know, rate, so I can, you know, corner that market and put you and everybody else out of business. But as soon as they brought that in, it got worse. So they brought that in to try and curtail and stop that, and it's been the total opposite since. You know, so for me, in a system like that, you would have to go back to individual trade again, where, you know, I work solely for me and you work solely for you, and you apply your trade and your benefit to anybody else that wants to trade with you in that regard.
It's needed, right?
yeah, maybe you're back to family companies, you know.
But even companies like that, you know, having that sort of structure, I don't know. It's difficult. Listen, I'm getting too hungry and I'm starting to wander in my thoughts here and they're becoming a bit empty, so I'm going to have to go and get fed.
Okay.
Sorry for cutting it off, but you know, needs must. It's been a pleasure. So yeah,
It's a pleasure for me as well. Thank you.
aye, no worries. Same to yourselves. Thanks very much. Cheers to everybody in the chat that's on the YouTube also. As I say, this Discord thing's there anytime people want to come in and have these sorts of discussions. It doesn't always have to be broadcast live. I get the benefit either way, you know, speaking to people in private or, you know, doing this. So cheers everybody. I'll take it easy and I'll catch you very soon.
Carol.
Can I-